Stolen by the wrong Mafia king. Prologue. The wrong girl. The rain fell in sheets across the Boston waterfront, turning the cobblestones into mirrors that reflected the neon signs of shuttered warehouses. Mia Torres pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders, cursing herself for picking up the late shift at Valentino's. The tips had been good, great even, but now she was walking home alone at midnight through a neighborhood that made even taxi drivers nervous. Her phone was dead. Of course it was. She'd spent her entire shift refilling water glasses and dodging handsy customers, with no time to charge it. The bus had stopped running an hour ago, and her apartment was still 12 blocks away. Just keep walking. Head down. Don't make eye contact with anyone. Mia had lived in Boston her entire 24 years, but she'd never gotten used to this particular brand of urban unease, the feeling that invisible eyes tracked your every move from the shadows between buildings. Her sneakers splashed through puddles as she picked up her pace, counting the blocks in her head like a mantra. 11 more. 10 more. 9 more. She didn't notice the black SUV until it was right beside her. The vehicle moved with predatory silence, its tinted windows revealing nothing. Mia's heart kicked into her throat, but she kept walking, kept her eyes forward. It's nothing. Just someone driving home. Don't panic. But when a second SUV appeared on her other side, boxing her in against the warehouse wall, panic was no longer optional. The passenger door of the first vehicle swung open and a man stepped out. He was built like a linebacker, all shoulders and menace, wearing an expensive suit that looked wrong in this part of town. Too clean. Too tailored. Too dangerous. Miss Torres? His voice was smooth, almost polite, but there was steel underneath. Mia's blood turned to ice. He knows my name. I think you have the wrong person, she stammered, taking a step back. Her spine hit the rough brick wall behind her. 2 more men emerged from the second SUV. They moved with military precision, fanning out to cut off any escape route. One of them spoke into a radio in rapid Italian, too fast for Mia to catch more than a few words. Costa. That name she understood. Everyone in Boston knew the Costa family. Please, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. I don't know what this is about, but I swear I haven't done anything. We know, the first man said, and something in his tone made her knees weak. Not reassurance. Pity. But you're coming with us anyway. Mia tried to run. She made it exactly 3 steps before strong hands caught her around the waist, lifting her off her feet like she weighed nothing. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the rain and the distant rumble of thunder. A cloth pressed over her mouth and nose, not chloroform like in the movies, just a firm, unyielding pressure that made it impossible to keep screaming. Easy, someone murmured. We're not going to hurt you. Boss's orders. The words should have been comforting. They weren't. The world tilted as they carried her toward the SUV. Mia's vision blurred with tears and rain. She caught a glimpse of her reflection in the vehicle's dark window, wide brown eyes, mascara running down her cheeks, dark hair plastered to her skull. She looked like a drowned rat. A terrified, drowned rat. This can't be happening. This can't be real. They placed her in the back seat with surprising gentleness, 1 man on either side of her. The door slammed shut with the finality of a coffin lid. The interior smelled of leather and expensive cologne and something darker, gunpowder maybe, or just the scent of violence that clung to men like these. Please, Mia tried again, her voice breaking. I'm nobody. I'm a waitress. I don't know anything about. We know, the man to her left said. He wouldn't meet her eyes. That's the problem. The SUV surged forward, and Mia watched her neighborhood disappear through the rain-streaked window. Her apartment building. The bodega where she bought coffee every morning. The church where her grandmother had been married. All of it sliding away into the darkness, taking her old life with it. She should have been formulating an escape plan. Memorizing the route. Looking for weaknesses in her captor's defenses. But all she could think was, what if they never let me go home? The drive took 40 minutes, though it felt like hours. They left the city proper and headed north into the suburbs, then beyond, into the kind of money that didn't advertise itself with gates and guards but simply existed in vast, manicured silence. The rain had stopped by the time they turned onto a private road lined with ancient oak trees. The estate that materialized from the darkness looked like something out of a Gothic novel. 3 stories of gray stone and arched windows, with towers at each corner that seemed designed more for defense than decoration. Lights blazed in every window, making the house look like it was on fire from within. A fortress, Mia thought numbly. They've brought me to a fortress. The SUV pulled into a circular driveway and stopped in front of massive oak doors. The men flanking her exchanged a look that made her stomach drop. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now," said the man on her right, "you meet the boss." They escorted her through doors that must have been 12 feet tall, into an entrance hall that could have swallowed her entire apartment. Black and white marble floors stretched in every direction. A chandelier the size of a car hung overhead, dripping with crystals that caught the light like frozen tears. Everything was beautiful and cold and utterly terrifying. Mia's wet sneakers squeaked on the marble as they led her deeper into the house. She caught glimpses of other rooms as they passed: a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a dining room with a table that could seat 20, a sitting room furnished with antiques that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. Everything spoke of old money, old power, old blood. They stopped in front of a set of double doors at the end of a long hallway. One of the men knocked, 2 sharp raps, and a voice from inside called out in Italian, "Avanti." The doors swung open. The study beyond was darker than the rest of the house, lit only by a fire crackling in an enormous stone fireplace and a single desk lamp. But even in the dim light, Mia could see him. Leonardo Costa sat behind a desk of dark mahogany, his posture relaxed but his attention absolute. He was younger than she'd expected, 30 at most, maybe younger, with the kind of face that would have been beautiful on a Renaissance statue. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, olive skin, and dark hair that fell just slightly too long, curling at his collar. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle, and, she noticed with a sick jolt, specks of something dark on his right hand. Blood. His eyes lifted from the papers on his desk, and Mia forgot how to breathe. They were gray. Storm cloud gray, cold and assessing and utterly inhuman in their intensity. Those eyes traveled over her slowly, taking in her soaked jacket, her cheap uniform, her trembling hands, and something flickered in their depths. Surprise? Recognition? It was gone too quickly for her to be sure. "This is the girl?" His voice was low, quiet, with an accent that turned every syllable into music and menace combined. "Yes, boss." The man who'd spoken to her in the SUV stepped forward. "We confirmed the surveillance footage. She was at the drop point when..." He hesitated. "When we moved." Leonardo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He set down his pen with deliberate care and rose from his chair, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. He was tall, at least 6'3", and built like he spent his mornings breaking things with his bare hands. He circled the desk and approached Mia, stopping just outside of arm's reach. The firelight played across his features, turning them sharp and dangerous. Up close, she could see the faint scar running through his left eyebrow, the shadow of stubble on his jaw, the way his shirt collar gaped open just enough to reveal the edge of a tattoo on his chest. "What's your name?" he asked. "I'm Mia." Her voice came out barely a whisper. "Mia Torres." "And what do you do, Mia Torres?" I'm a waitress. At Valentino's. I was just walking home from work. I swear I don't know anything about." "I know." He cut her off, his tone neither harsh nor gentle, simply factual. "My men made a mistake." The room went very still. Even the fire seemed to quiet. "A mistake." The word came out strangled. Then you'll let me go?" Leonardo's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in those gray eyes. "No." "What?" Mia's legs nearly gave out. "But you just said." "I said my men made a mistake. They were supposed to take Elena Romano." He spoke the name like a curse. "The daughter of our enemy. Instead they took you. So let me go." Desperation made her voice crack. "I won't tell anyone, I promise. I'll forget this ever happened." Too late. Leonardo turned away from her, moving back toward his desk. The dismissal in his posture was worse than any threat. "The Romanos already know we took someone from that location. They think we have Elena. Which means they think we have leverage. But you don't." Mia wanted to scream it, but it came out as a broken plea. "I'm nobody. I don't matter to anyone." He glanced back over his shoulder, and for just a moment his expression softened, or maybe that was just a trick of the firelight. "You matter now. The Romanos have already put a price on your head. They think you're ours. Which means you're a target. And a weakness." "I don't understand." "You don't need to." He picked up his phone, pressing a button. "Show her to the East Wing. 3rd floor. Marco, I want 2 guards on her door at all times. No one goes in or out without my explicit permission." "Wait." Mia lunged forward, but the men grabbed her arms before she could take 2 steps. "Please, you can't just keep me here. I have a job, I have rent due, I have a life." Leonardo looked at her, then really looked at her, and the weight of his gaze pinned her in place like a butterfly to cork. "Not anymore," he said quietly. "Your life ended the moment my men put you in that car. Now you belong to me. And if you want to survive, Miss Torres, you'll learn to accept that." "No." The word burst out of her, raw and desperate. "No, you can't. Take her." His attention was already back on his papers, dismissing her completely. "And someone clean up the Romano mess in the East Docks. I want it done before dawn." The men hauled her backward, and Mia thrashed against their grip, all pretense of composure shattering. "Let me go. You can't do this. Someone will notice I'm missing, the police will." "The police work for me," Leonardo said without looking up. "As does your landlord. And your employer. No one will come looking for you, Miss Torres. No one who lives anyway." The doors closed on her scream. They dragged her up 3 flights of stairs, down a hallway lined with paintings of severe-looking men in old-fashioned clothes, and finally stopped in front of a door at the end of the corridor. One of the men produced a key and unlocked it, pushing the door open to reveal a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, draped in dark blue velvet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens that probably looked beautiful in daylight but now were just stretches of shadow. There was a fireplace, a sitting area, a desk, even a private bathroom visible through an open door. It looked like a room in a 5-star hotel. It looked like a prison cell wearing expensive clothes. "You'll be comfortable here," one of the men said, with what might have been genuine sympathy. "The boss will send for you when he's ready." "Ready for what?" Mia whispered, but they were already backing out of the room. The lock clicked into place with terrible finality. Mia stood frozen in the center of the room for a long moment, her mind spinning uselessly. Then her legs gave out and she collapsed onto the plush carpet, wrapping her arms around herself as the shock finally broke into shaking sobs. "This isn't happening. This can't be happening." But it was. She was here, in the home of a mafia boss, held captive because of a mistake. A case of wrong place, wrong time, wrong girl. And according to Leonardo Costa, that mistake was going to cost her everything. She cried until she had no tears left, until her throat was raw and her head pounded. Then she dragged herself to the window and pressed her forehead against the cold glass, looking out at the darkness beyond. "Someone will come for me," she told herself. "Someone has to notice I'm gone." But even as she thought it, she knew it was a lie. She lived alone. She had no family left in Boston, no boyfriend, no close friends who'd panic if she missed a shift. She was exactly what she'd told Leonardo Costa. Nobody. Invisible. The kind of person who could disappear and leave barely a ripple behind. Except now, somehow, she mattered. She was a weakness. A target. A mistake that couldn't be undone. Behind her, the house settled with creaks and groans, like a living thing adjusting to her presence. And somewhere in its depths, Leonardo Costa sat in his study, surrounded by blood and shadows, deciding her fate. Mia closed her eyes and made herself a promise. "I'm getting out of here. I don't care what it takes. I'm going home." But even as she swore it, a small, traitorous voice in the back of her mind whispered, "What if you can't? What if this is home now?" She pushed the thought away with violence. She had to. Because the alternative, accepting that her life was over, that she belonged to a stranger, that she was trapped in this beautiful prison with a beautiful monster, was too terrible to contemplate. Outside, the moon broke through the clouds, casting silver light across the grounds. And in the gardens below, a shadow moved, tall, broad-shouldered, walking the perimeter like a king surveying his kingdom. Leonardo Costa, unable to sleep, checking on his property, making sure his mistake didn't escape. Mia watched him until he disappeared back into the house, then turned away from the window and climbed into the enormous bed, still wearing her damp clothes. She pulled the covers over her head like a child hiding from monsters, and waited for morning. But morning, she would soon learn, would bring no rescue. Only the beginning of a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Or perhaps something far more dangerous than a nightmare. Perhaps the beginning of a twisted destiny she never asked for but couldn't escape. The wrong girl, stolen by the wrong man, in a story that was only just beginning to unfold. Chapter 1, The Mistaken Girl. Mia woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and for one blissful moment forgot where she was. Then memory crashed over her like a wave and she bolted upright, her heart hammering against her ribs. The silk sheets tangled around her legs as she scrambled backward against the headboard, her eyes darting around the opulent bedroom. Not a nightmare. Real. This is real. The clothes she'd slept in were still damp and wrinkled, clinging uncomfortably to her skin. Her mouth tasted like cotton and fear. Through the windows she could see the Costa estate in daylight, manicured lawns stretching toward a distant tree line, gardens arranged in geometric perfection, a fountain in the center of it all. Beautiful. Serene. A gilded cage. A soft knock at the door made her flinch. "Miss Torres?" A woman's voice, older, accented. "I'm coming in." The lock clicked before Mia could respond. An older woman in a simple black dress entered, carrying a tray. She had steel gray hair pulled back in a severe bun and the kind of face that had seen too much to be shocked by anything. Her dark eyes swept over Mia with professional assessment. "I'm Rosa," she said, setting the tray on the bedside table. "I manage the house. Mr. Costa has instructed me to see to your needs." "My needs?" Mia's voice came out hoarse. "My need is to go home." Rosa's expression didn't flicker. "There's breakfast. Coffee, eggs, fruit. You should eat. Mr. Costa wants to see you in an hour." "I don't care what Mr. Costa wants." "1 hour, Miss Torres." Rosa moved to the armoire and began pulling out clothes. "I've brought you things to wear. Your size, yes?" The boss was very specific. Mia stared at her, then at the clothes Rosa was laying out on the bed. Designer labels she recognized from magazine ads. Jeans that probably cost more than her rent. A soft sweater in cream cashmere. Everything in her exact size. "How does he know my size?" "I'm not wearing those," she said, even though she was still in yesterday's damp uniform. I'm not playing along with whatever sick game this is." Rosa finally looked at her directly, and something almost like sympathy flickered in her eyes. "Listen to me, child. I've worked for the Costa family for 30 years. I've seen girls come through here before. The ones who fight every step, who refuse every kindness, they make it harder on themselves. The boss, he's not a patient man, but he's not cruel without reason. If you want to survive this, you eat. You dress. You do what's asked. Do you understand?" "No." Mia's hands clenched in the sheets. "No, I don't understand any of this. Why am I here? What does he want with me?" "That's for him to explain." Rosa moved toward the door. "1 hour, Miss Torres. I'll send someone to collect you." She left and the lock clicked back into place. Mia sat frozen for a long moment, staring at the breakfast tray. Her stomach growled traitorously. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Yesterday's lunch break, maybe? Everything before the kidnapping had already started to blur. Don't eat it. Don't give him the satisfaction. But what was the point of starving herself? It wouldn't get her out of here. It wouldn't change anything. She reached for the coffee first. It was perfect, hot, strong, with just the right amount of cream. She hated that it was perfect. Hated that the eggs were fluffy and seasoned exactly how she liked them. Hated that the fruit was fresh and sweet and someone had even remembered to cut the strawberries the way she preferred. He's been watching me. Learning about me. Planning this. No, that didn't make sense. She was the wrong girl. The mistake. He couldn't have been planning to take her specifically. Could he? 45 minutes later, she was showered, dressed in the clothes Rosa had provided, because her own were disgusting, and she drew the line at martyring herself over laundry, and pacing the room like a caged animal. The jeans fit perfectly. The sweater was softer than anything she'd ever owned. She felt like a doll being dressed for someone else's amusement. The knock came exactly at the 1 hour mark. This time it was one of the men from last night, Marco. She thought she'd heard Leonardo call him. He was built like a tank, with a shaved head and a scar running down his left cheek. But his eyes, when they met hers, weren't entirely unkind. "Miss Torres. The boss is waiting." "What if I refuse?" Marco's expression didn't change. "Then I carry you. Your choice." Mia's jaw clenched, but she walked through the door with her head high. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her broken. Not yet. They descended the grand staircase and moved through the house in silence. In daylight, the Costa mansion was even more imposing. All dark wood and expensive art, and the kind of old money elegance that money couldn't buy, only inherit. They passed other people, men in suits who nodded at Marco, maids who kept their eyes down, a chef arguing with someone in rapid Italian in a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a Michelin star restaurant. It was a whole world operating inside these walls, and she was the only one who didn't belong. Marco led her to a different room this time, not the study but a library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves lined 3 walls, packed with leather-bound books in multiple languages. The 4th wall was all windows overlooking the gardens. And in the center of it all, sitting in a leather chair with a book open in his lap, was Leonardo Costa. He'd changed since last night. Now he wore dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that clung to his shoulders in a way that should have been illegal. His hair was damp, like he'd recently showered. He looked up as they entered, and those storm-gray eyes locked onto Mia with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Leave us," he said to Marco. "Boss, are you sure?" "Leave us." Marco hesitated for only a second before nodding and backing out of the room. The door closed with a soft click, and Mia was alone with her captor. Leonardo set his book aside and stood, moving with that same predatory grace she'd noticed last night. In the morning light he looked younger, and somehow more dangerous. Beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Perfect and deadly. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, as if this were a normal conversation between normal people. "Are you joking?" The words burst out before she could stop them. "You kidnapped me. You're holding me prisoner. Do you really think I slept well?" "You slept for 8 hours straight, according to the guards." He moved closer and she fought the urge to step back. "So yes, I'd say you slept well enough." "You had guards watching me sleep?" Nausea rose in her throat. "What kind of—" "Outside your door, Miss Torres. Not inside." His tone was patient, like he was explaining something to a child. "For your protection as much as my own." "Protection from what?" "You're the one keeping me here." "Sit down." "No." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe, or amusement. "I'm trying to be civilized about this. Don't make it difficult." "Difficult?" Mia's voice rose, weeks of exhaustion and fear crystallizing into anger. "You want to talk about difficult? I was walking home from my job, my legitimate, normal job, and your thugs grabbed me off the street. You locked me in a room. You had someone watching me all night. And now you want me to sit down and have a polite conversation? Go to hell." The silence that followed her outburst was deafening. Leonardo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously soft. "Are you finished?" "No. No, I'm not finished. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know what you plan to do with me. And I want to know when you're going to let me go." "Sit down." This time it wasn't a request. Something in his tone made her legs move before her brain could override them. She sank into the chair he'd indicated, hating herself for the automatic obedience. Leonardo returned to his own chair, leaning back with deceptive casualness. But his eyes never left her face, studying her with the focus of a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. "You want answers," he said. "Fine. Here's the truth. You're here because my men made a mistake. They were supposed to take Elena Romano, the daughter of Vincent Romano, my enemy. Instead they took you. Then let me go." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because the Romanos don't know I have the wrong woman." Leonardo's fingers drummed against the arm of his chair. "They think I have Elena. They think I've taken Vincent's precious daughter as leverage in our disagreement. And by now they've put out word on the street that anyone who helps you, anyone who even sees you, is an enemy of their family." Mia's stomach dropped. "But I'm not." "You are now." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and the intensity in his gaze pinned her to her seat. "The moment my men put you in that car, you became mine in the eyes of every criminal organization in Boston. The Romanos will try to take you back, not because they care about you, but because they can't let an insult like this stand. And when they realize you're not Elena, they'll kill you just to make a point." "That's insane." "That's the world I live in, Miss Torres. Welcome to it." Mia pressed her hands to her temples, trying to process what he was saying. "So what, you're just going to keep me here forever? I'm supposed to hide in your mansion for the rest of my life." "For now, yes. I have a life." Her voice cracked. "I have rent to pay, a job, responsibilities." "You had those things." Leonardo's tone was matter-of-fact, almost gentle. "You don't anymore. Your landlord has been informed you're taking an extended family emergency. Your employer was told the same. Your bank accounts have been managed. As far as the world is concerned, Mia Torres has temporarily disappeared, but not in any way that raises suspicion." She stared at him, horrified. You can't just." "I already did." He stood and moved to the window, looking out over the gardens. "I'm not the villain here, Miss Torres. I didn't want this any more than you did. But we're in this situation now, and I'm doing what I have to do to keep you alive." "How noble of you," she spat. "Cleaning up your own mess." "My men's mess, actually. But yes." He glanced back at her over his shoulder. "They'll be dealt with." Something cold slithered down her spine. "Dealt with how?" "That's not your concern." "You're going to hurt them? Kill them?" Leonardo turned fully to face her, and his expression was unreadable. "I'm going to make sure they understand the cost of their mistake. What form that takes depends on how valuable they are to me otherwise." They were just following orders. They took the wrong woman. His voice went hard. In my world, that kind of mistake gets people killed. The fact that it was you, a civilian and innocent, makes it worse. So yes, Miss Torres, they will be dealt with. But that's my business, not yours. Mia felt sick. She wanted to argue, to defend the men who'd kidnapped her, which was insane, but the thought of them dying because of a mistake was too horrible to contemplate. But looking at Leonardo's face, she knew argument would be pointless. This was a man who measured consequences in blood. Why are you telling me all this? She asked quietly. Why not just keep me in the dark? Because I need you to understand the situation. I need you to know that running isn't an option. That fighting me on every little thing won't change anything. He moved closer, stopping just in front of her chair. I'm not going to hurt you, Mia. I'm not going to touch you without permission. But you're staying here, under my protection, until I figure out how to fix this mess. Do you understand? She looked up at him, at the hard angles of his face and the cold calculation in his eyes, and felt something crack inside her. I understand that I'm a prisoner. You're a guest with limited mobility. That's just prisoner with better marketing. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Some weeping damsel who'd just accept this? Most people don't mouth off to me quite this much. It's usually bad for their health. Are you threatening me? I'm stating a fact. But his tone had softened just slightly. Though I'll admit it's refreshing. The people around me spend so much time being afraid that they forget how to be human. Mia's hands clenched in her lap. I'm afraid. I'm terrified. But I'm not going to grovel. Good. Leonardo straightened, putting distance between them again. Fear is healthy. Keeps you alive. But grovel and I'll lose respect for you, and that wouldn't be good for either of us. Why would you care about respecting me? He was quiet for a moment and something flickered across his face, too fast for her to read. Because you're going to be here for a while. We might as well be civil. Civil. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to be civil with your hostage. I want to make this easier on both of us. Then let me go. I can't. They stared at each other across the sun-drenched library, an impasse crystallizing between them. Mia wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything that would make him understand how completely this was destroying her. But looking at Leonardo Costa's implacable expression, she knew it would be pointless. He'd made his decision. She was staying. Can I at least call someone? She asked, hating the pleading note in her voice. Just to let them know I'm okay? Who would you call? The question landed like a punch. Friends? Family. You have no family in Boston. Your grandmother died 3 years ago, your mother lives in Arizona and you haven't spoken to her in 18 months. You have work acquaintances but no close friends. The last person you had dinner with was a coworker named Jessica, and that was 6 weeks ago. Leonardo recited the facts with clinical precision. I've had you investigated, Miss Torres. Thoroughly. There's no one who's going to miss you enough to cause problems. Mia felt tears prick her eyes. Not because it was cruel, though it was, but because it was true. She was alone. She'd been alone for years, ever since Nana died and her mother moved away to start over with husband number 3. She told herself it was fine, that she was independent, that she didn't need anyone. Now that independence had made her the perfect victim. I see you understand, Leonardo said quietly. That's why you were the wrong choice, but also the easiest to take. No one will look too hard for a woman with no ties. You bastard. The words came out broken. Yes. He didn't sound proud or ashamed, just factual. But I'm a bastard who's going to keep you alive. That has to count for something. Before she could respond, the door burst open. Marco appeared, his face tight with urgency. Boss. We have a situation. Leonardo's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The almost conversational man disappeared, replaced by something harder. Colder. What kind of situation? Romanos. They hit one of our collection points in Southie. 3 men dead, place burned to the ground. They left a message. What message? Marco's eyes flickered to Mia, then back to Leonardo. They said, return the girl or we burn everything you have. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Leonardo's jaw clenched, and for the first time since she'd met him, Mia saw real anger cross his face. Not the cold, controlled danger from before, something hotter. More violent. Triple security on the estate, he said, his voice deadly calm. No one in or out without my explicit permission. Pull the men from the docks and have them rotate guard duty here. I want. An explosion shattered the morning quiet. The windows rattled in their frames. Somewhere in the house, glass broke. And outside, black smoke began to rise from the direction of the main gates. "Get her upstairs," Leonardo barked. "Now." Marco lunged for Mia, but she was already on her feet, her heart hammering. "What's happening?" "They're here." Leonardo was moving toward the door, pulling a gun from somewhere under his sweater. "Marco, if anything happens to her, I'll kill you myself." "Boss. Go." Another explosion, closer this time. The chandelier above them swayed, crystals tinkling like wind chimes. Mia heard shouting from elsewhere in the house, running feet, someone screaming orders in Italian. Marco grabbed her arm and hauled her toward a different door, not the way they'd come in. Mia stumbled after him, her mind reeling. This is really happening. They're really attacking. They burst into a hallway just as gunfire erupted somewhere below them. The sharp crack of automatic weapons, followed by the deeper boom of a shotgun. More shouting. More running feet. "Move." Marco pushed her forward, one hand on her back, the other holding a gun he'd produced from somewhere. "Stairs now." They took the stairs two at a time, Mia's legs burning with effort. Behind them she heard more gunfire. Closer now. And then, a man rounded the corner at the top of the stairs. He was dressed in black, wearing a tactical vest, and he had a gun pointed directly at them. Not one of Leonardo's men. One of theirs. Time slowed to a crawl. Mia saw the man's finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Marco start to raise his own weapon, knowing he'd be too slow. Saw her own death approaching at the speed of a bullet. Then Leonardo appeared behind the gunman like a nightmare made flesh. He moved with brutal efficiency. One hand grabbed the man's gun arm, forcing it up just as it fired. The bullet went into the ceiling, raining plaster down on them. Leonardo's other hand wrapped around the man's throat, and there was a sickening crack. The gunman crumpled. Leonardo stepped over the body without a glance, his eyes finding Mia's across the distance. His white sweater was splattered with blood, whose she couldn't tell, and there was something feral in his expression. Something that belonged in a cage, not a civilized house. "Get her to the panic room," he said to Marco, his voice eerily calm. "Third floor, behind the false bookshelf in the east bedroom. Lock yourselves in and don't come out until I give the all clear. Boss, you need backup. I need her safe. That's your only job right now. Do you understand me?" Marco nodded, and Leonardo's gaze swung back to Mia. For just a moment, something almost human flickered in those gray eyes. "Don't be afraid. I've got this." Then he was gone, disappearing back down the stairs toward the sound of gunfire, and Marco was dragging Mia upward again. They reached the third floor and ran down a hallway Mia had never seen before. Marco practically threw her into a bedroom, then went straight to one of the bookshelves and pulled out 3 books in sequence. The entire shelf swung outward with a soft click, revealing a steel door behind it. "Inside," Marco commanded. Mia looked into the small room beyond, reinforced walls, a single cot, supplies, a bank of security monitors. A cage within a cage. But the gunfire below was getting louder, and the alternative was getting shot, so she stepped through the doorway. Marco followed, pulling the bookshelf closed behind them and engaging multiple locks on the steel door. Then he moved to the monitors, pulling up camera feeds from around the estate. What Mia saw made her stomach turn. The grounds were crawling with armed men. Leonardo's people and the attackers were engaged in firefights across the lawn, behind hedges, near the fountain. Bodies lay scattered on the grass. And in the center of it all, moving like a vengeful angel, was Leonardo Costa. He fought with a grace that shouldn't have been possible, dispatching attackers with ruthless precision. Every movement was economical, every shot found its mark. He didn't hesitate, didn't flinch, just moved from target to target like death incarnate. "Jesus," Mia breathed. Is he going to be okay?" "The boss?" Marco let out a short laugh. "He'll be fine. The Romanos made a mistake coming here. They think they can waltz onto Costa territory and take what's his." He shook his head. "They're already dead. They just don't know it yet." "What's his?" The words echoed in Mia's head. That's what she was now. Property. Something to be fought over and protected like a valuable piece of furniture. On the monitor, Leonardo took down 3 men in rapid succession, then disappeared into a cloud of smoke from a thrown grenade. Mia's breath caught, but seconds later he emerged on the other side, unharmed, already moving toward the next threat. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why is he doing this? Why not just, give me back? I'm not worth all this." Marco glanced at her, and there was something almost like pity in his eyes. You don't know him very well yet. The boss doesn't give up anything that's his. Ever. Doesn't matter if it's money or territory or a woman who got taken by mistake. Once something belongs to Leonardo Costa, he'll burn the world before he lets someone take it away. But I'm not his. I don't want to be his. Doesn't matter what you want, Marco said not unkindly. Matters what he decides. And he's decided you're under his protection. Which means you're under his ownership. Same thing in his world. Mia turned back to the monitors, watching the battle rage across the beautiful grounds. Men dying for a mistake. Blood staining manicured grass. All because she'd been walking home at the wrong time. And in the middle of it all, Leonardo Costa fought like a man possessed, protecting what he'd claimed as his own. This is insane. This whole world is insane. But as she watched him move through the carnage with brutal elegance, something unsettling stirred in her chest. Not fear, though there was plenty of that. Not gratitude, she hadn't asked to be protected. Something else. Something she couldn't name and didn't want to examine too closely. Because the truth was, even though he terrified her, even though she was his prisoner, there was something darkly compelling about Leonardo Costa. About the way he moved, the way he commanded, the way he'd looked at her in the library like she was something worth protecting. No, don't think like that. He's your captor. He's a murderer. On the monitor, Leonardo took a bullet to the shoulder and didn't even flinch. He just turned, located the shooter, and put 3 rounds through the man's chest before continuing forward. Mia's hands were shaking. The battle lasted another 20 minutes, though it felt like hours. Gradually the gunfire tapered off. Bodies stopped falling. The Romano attackers either died or retreated, and Leonardo's men began the grim work of cleanup. Finally, Marco's radio crackled to life. All clear. Boss wants the girl brought to the medical wing. Copy that. Marco turned to Mia. Come on. It's over. But as they emerged from the panic room and made their way through the house, past bullet holes in the walls, past blood on the marble floors, past men carrying body bags, Mia knew with cold certainty that nothing was over. This was just the beginning. And Leonardo Costa, bleeding from a gunshot wound but still standing, still commanding, still utterly in control, he was going to make sure she understood exactly what it meant to belong to him. Whether she wanted to or not. Chapter 2, A Dangerous Night. The medical wing was in the east side of the mansion, down a corridor Mia hadn't seen before. It looked less like a room in a house and more like a private clinic, sterile white walls, medical equipment that probably cost more than most people's cars, and a doctor who appeared within seconds of their arrival. Mr. Costa is in examination room 2, the doctor said to Marco, barely glancing at Mia. He was middle-aged, with tired eyes and the demeanor of someone who'd seen too much blood. The bullet went through. Cling. He's refusing sedation. Of course he is, Marco muttered. They found Leonardo sitting on an examination table, shirtless, while a nurse worked on his shoulder. The wound was exactly as the doctor had described. A through and through, the bullet having passed cleanly through the muscle without hitting bone or artery. It should have been agonizing. Leonardo looked mildly annoyed at best. His eyes found Mia the moment she entered, and he said something sharp in Italian to the nurse. She nodded and stepped back, giving them space. You're bleeding, Mia said stupidly, because what else was there to say? I've had worse. Leonardo's voice was steady, showing no sign of pain. But she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his left hand gripped the edge of the table. Are you hurt? Me? No, she stopped, processing the question. You're asking if I'm hurt? You were in a building that was just attacked. It's a reasonable question. You got shot. And I'm fine. He turned his attention back to the nurse, switching to Italian. Mia caught enough words to understand he was telling her to hurry up, that he had things to do. The nurse replied with what sounded like scolding, and to Mia's shock, Leonardo actually looked chastened. He sat still while the woman cleaned the exit wound on his back, muttering under her breath about stubborn men and death wishes. Marco cleared his throat. Boss, we've got 12 confirmed kills. All Romano soldiers. 3 of ours wounded, none critical. They came in through the east gate, explosives on the lock. We're reinforcing all entry points now. Security footage? Being reviewed. They knew our patrol schedule, which means we have a leak. Leonardo's voice went cold. Find it. And when you do, bring them to me alive. Yes, boss. What about the main house? Damage? Mostly cosmetic. Some bullet holes, broken windows, scorched entryway. Nothing structural. Rosa's already organizing repairs. Leonardo nodded, then winced as the nurse applied something to his shoulder that must have stung. Good. And the Romanos? Any survivors? Two. They're in the basement. Something dark flickered across Leonardo's face. I'll deal with them later. His eyes shifted to Mia, and she saw him take in her pale face, her trembling hands. Marco, have Rosa prepare a room for Miss Torres. Not the one she was in before, something on the second floor closer to my quarters. And I want guards on her door at all times. No exceptions. Boss. At times. Marco nodded and left, leaving Mia alone with Leonardo and the nurse. The woman finished bandaging his shoulder and said something that made Leonardo's mouth quirk in what might have been amusement. Then she gathered her supplies and departed, closing the door behind her. Silence fell. Mia stood by the door, unsure what to do with herself. Leonardo sat on the examination table, bare-chested and bleeding, watching her with those unreadable gray eyes. In the harsh fluorescent light, she could see scars she'd missed before. Old bullet wounds, knife marks, what looked like a burn across his ribs. His body was a map of violence. You should sit down, he said quietly. You look like you're about to pass out. I'm fine. You're shaking. She looked down at her hands and realized he was right. They were trembling so badly she could barely keep them still. The adrenaline that had carried her through the attack was wearing off, leaving her feeling hollow and terrified and inexplicably angry. People died, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I watched them die on those monitors. You're men. They're men. All because of me. Not because of you. Leonardo slid off the table, moving carefully to avoid jarring his shoulder. He crossed to a cabinet and pulled out a clean shirt. Because of the Romano's pride. Because they couldn't let an insult stand. An insult that exists because your men took the wrong woman. Yes. He pulled the shirt on with some difficulty, and Mia found herself moving forward to help before she could think better of it. Her fingers brushed his bare skin as she helped guide his injured arm through the sleeve, and she felt him tense under her touch. You don't have to, he started. Just let me help. She didn't know why she was helping him. Didn't know why she cared if he was comfortable or not. But her hands moved anyway, smoothing the fabric over his shoulders, careful around the bandage. When she stepped back, Leonardo was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm still furious with you. I know. He buttoned the shirt slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. You should be. None of this is fair to you. Then let me go. I can't. He moved closer and Mia forced herself not to retreat. After today it's even more impossible. The Romanos won't stop until they either get you or I'm dead. Letting you go would be the same as killing you. So I'm just supposed to stay here forever? Hiding in your house while people die around me? Would you prefer to die yourself? His voice was soft but relentless. Because that's the alternative. You walk out that door and you won't last a week. The Romanos will find you. They'll torture you for information you don't have, then they'll kill you just to hurt me. Why would killing me hurt you? You don't even know me. Leonardo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was so low she almost didn't hear it. Because you're mine to protect now. And I don't fail at protecting what's mine. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. Tell that to the 12 men who died today trying to take you. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers were gentle despite the calluses. Like it or not, Mia, you're at the center of a war now. And the only way you survive is if you stay exactly where I can keep you safe. His touch lingered for a second too long before he dropped his hand. Mia's skin felt hot where he'd touched her, and she hated herself for it. I need air, she said abruptly. I need to, I can't breathe in here. Leonardo studied her for a moment, then nodded. Come on. I'll show you the gardens. You're injured. I'm fine. And you need to see that life goes on even after something like this. He moved toward the door then paused. Besides, I could use the walk. Helps me think. Against her better judgment, Mia followed. The gardens were even more beautiful up close than they'd been from her window. Whoever had designed them had done so with an artist's eye. Winding paths through rose bushes, a reflecting pool with lily pads, stone benches positioned to catch the afternoon sun. It should have been peaceful. But as they walked, Mia could see evidence of the battle. Bullet casings glinting in the grass. Scorched patches where grenades had exploded. A broken fountain that someone had already cordoned off with caution tape. And in the distance, men in dark suits were carrying black bags toward a truck. Body bags. Don't look at that, Leonardo said quietly. Look at this instead. He guided her toward a section of the garden that seemed untouched, a small arbor covered in climbing wisteria with a bench underneath. The late afternoon sun filtered through the purple flowers, dappling everything in soft light. "My mother planted these," Leonardo said, surprising her. 20 years ago when she first married my father. She said every house needed something beautiful, something that grew instead of just existing. Mia sat on the bench, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. "Where is she now?" "Your mother?" "Dead. Cancer took her when I was 19. He remained standing, looking up at the flowers. "My father followed 6 months later. Heart attack, the doctor said. But I think he just couldn't live without her." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." But something in his voice suggested it wasn't as distant as he pretended. "My point is, this garden has survived a lot. Wars between families, fires, attacks like today's. But it keeps growing. Keeps being beautiful. Because that's what living things do." "Is that supposed to make me feel better? Comparing me to a plant?" Leonardo's mouth quirked. "I'm not known for my comforting speeches." Despite everything, Mia felt a laugh bubble up, short and slightly hysterical but real. "You think?" He sat down beside her, careful of his shoulder, and for a while they just existed in silence. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds called to each other from the trees. And slowly, Mia felt the tension in her chest begin to ease. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked finally. "You're a mafia boss. You've killed people. You're keeping me prisoner. But you're also this." She gestured vaguely at the garden, at him sitting beside her like a normal person. "Because I'm not a monster, despite what you might think." Leonardo's voice was quiet. "I do what I have to do to survive in this world. To protect what's mine. But that doesn't mean I enjoy causing unnecessary suffering. You killed people today. People who came here to kill you. To kill my men. To burn my home." He turned to look at her, and there was no apology in his eyes. "I'd do it again without hesitation. That's the world I live in, Mia. Violence is currency. Mercy is weakness. You show throat and they rip it out. That's a horrible way to live." "Yes." The simple agreement surprised her. "It is. But it's the only way I know." Mia studied his profile, the sharp lines of his face, the set of his jaw, the way the fading light caught in his dark hair. He looked young in this moment despite the weight he carried. Human despite the monster he claimed to be. "Tell me something," she said impulsively. "Something real. Not about the mafia or territory or violence. Something about you." Leonardo was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I wanted to be an architect. When I was younger, before my father started training me to take over the family. I used to draw buildings, design houses, imagine creating something permanent that people would remember." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "My father found my sketchbooks and burned them. Said they'd make me soft. That's awful. That's family." He stood, offering her his good hand. "Come on. It's getting cold and you need to eat something. Rosa will have dinner ready by now." Mia let him pull her to her feet, and they walked back toward the house in comfortable silence. But as they approached the side entrance, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was one of Leonardo's men, young, maybe mid-20s, with nervous eyes and sweat on his brow despite the cool evening air. He saw them and froze, his face going pale. "Boss," he stammered. I was just." Leonardo's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The almost gentle man from the garden disappeared, replaced by something cold and deadly. "Luca. I've been looking for you. I can explain." "I'm sure you can." Leonardo's voice was soft. "Dangerous. That's why you're going to come with me right now and do exactly that." "Marco." Marco materialized from somewhere behind them, gun already drawn. "Boss. Take Luca to the basement. I'll be down shortly." Leonardo turned to Mia, and his expression softened fractionally. "Go inside. Have dinner. Stay in your room until I send for you." "What are you going to do to him?" Mia asked, even though part of her didn't want to know. "What needs to be done?" He touched her cheek briefly, a gesture that was almost tender. "Don't worry about things that aren't your concern." Then he was walking away, following Marco and the terrified Luca toward the house, and Mia was left standing in the garden as darkness fell around her. She knew what was going to happen in that basement. Knew that Leonardo was going to hurt that young man, maybe kill him, all because he'd been the leak. The one who'd given the Romanos information that led to today's attack. She should be horrified. Should be running. Should be finding any way possible to escape this nightmare. But instead, she found herself walking slowly back to the house, her mind spinning with confused thoughts. Because the truth was, she'd felt safer sitting next to Leonardo in that garden than she had anywhere in months. Even knowing what he did, there was something about his presence that made her feel protected. I'm losing my mind. This is Stockholm Syndrome or something. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like something else. Something she didn't have words for yet. Rosa was waiting in the entrance hall, her expression knowing. Come, child. Let's get some food in you. And then a bath. You've had a terrible day. Mia followed her without argument, too exhausted to fight. They went to a dining room she hadn't seen before, smaller than the formal one, more intimate, with a table that seated only 6. Rosa brought her soup and bread and pasta that smelled divine, and Mia ate mechanically, tasting nothing. He's not a bad man, Rosa said suddenly, sitting down across from her. Mr. Costa. I know what he seems like, what he has to be. But he's not bad. He kills people. He protects people. His people. And now that includes you, whether you want it or not. Rosa poured them both wine without asking. I've worked for this family since Leonardo was 10 years old. I watched his father beat the softness out of him. Watched him learn to survive in a world that wanted to destroy him. And through all of it, he never lost the part of himself that can still be kind. That still wants to build instead of destroy. Why are you telling me this? Because you're afraid of him. And fear is useful, but not when it's all you feel. Rosa met her eyes. He will never hurt you, Miss Torres. I'd stake my life on it. But he will own you in every way that matters. The question is, will you fight that until it breaks you both? Or will you learn to exist in his world? I don't want to exist in his world. None of us do, child. But here we are anyway. Rosa stood, gathering the dishes. Your new room is ready. 2nd floor, 3rd door on the right. There's a guard outside, not to keep you in but to keep everyone else out. Try to rest. Tomorrow will be better. Mia doubted that, but she thanked Rosa anyway and made her way upstairs. The new room was bigger than the first, with a view of both the gardens and the front drive. The bed was enormous, the bathroom luxurious, and someone had already unpacked the clothes Rosa had given her that morning. A prison, however beautiful, was still a prison. She showered, washing away the dried sweat and fear of the day, then climbed into bed wearing an oversized t-shirt someone had left out for her. The sheets were soft. The room was warm. Everything was perfect except for the fact that she was being held against her will by a man who killed people as easily as breathing. She was almost asleep when she heard her door open. Mia sat bolt upright, her heart hammering, but it was only Leonardo. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the hall light, and even from across the room she could see the blood on his shirt. Fresh blood, not from his shoulder wound. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean to wake you. I needed to see that you were okay. Are you okay? The question came out before she could stop it. Leonardo stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. In the dim light from her bedside lamp, she could see that he looked exhausted. There were shadows under his eyes, tension in every line of his body. I've had better days. Did you? She couldn't finish the question. Luca is alive. He'll stay that way as long as he does what I tell him. Leonardo moved closer, stopping at the foot of her bed. He was the leak. He gave the Romanos our security schedules in exchange for money to pay off gambling debts. 3 of my men nearly died today because of him. So you hurt him. I made sure he understood the consequences of his choices. Yes. No apology. No justification. Just fact. Mia should have been disgusted. Should have told him to leave. But looking at him standing there, covered in someone else's blood, exhausted and injured and still somehow standing, she felt something else entirely. Your shoulder, she said. You shouldn't be moving around this much. You'll tear the stitches. I've had worse. You keep saying that. It doesn't make it better. Something that might have been a smile touched his lips. No. I suppose it doesn't. He moved to leave, then paused. The guards outside your door, they're under orders to come get me if you need anything. Anything at all. Even just to talk. Understand? Why? Because you've had a traumatic day, and you're alone in a strange place, and despite everything, I don't want you to suffer more than necessary. He met her eyes and there was something raw in his gaze. I know you don't believe me, Mia, but I'm trying to make this bearable for you. By keeping me prisoner? By keeping you alive. He turned toward the door. Lock this after I leave. The deadbolt works from the inside too. If it makes you feel safer, use it. Would it actually keep you out if you wanted in? Leonardo glanced back over his shoulder and his smile was tired. No. but it might make you sleep better thinking it would. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Mia sat in bed for a long time, staring at that door, her mind a chaos of confused thoughts and unwanted feelings. She should hate him. She did hate him. But she also... No, don't even think it. But it was too late. The thought was already there, small and insidious and terrifying. Leonardo Costa was dangerous, violent, possessive, and completely wrong for her in every possible way. And yet, when he'd stood in her doorway checking on her, when he'd sat beside her in the garden talking about his dead mother, when he'd touched her face with surprising gentleness, in those moments she'd felt something she hadn't felt in years. Mia turned off the lamp and burrowed under the covers, trying to ignore the truth crystallizing in her mind. She was in terrible danger, not from the Romanos, not from the violence of the Mafia world. From something much more insidious. From the slow, inexorable pull of Leonardo Costa's gravity, drawing her in whether she wanted it or not. And the worst part? She wasn't entirely sure she wanted to resist anymore. Chapter 3, Triggered. Mia spent the next 3 days in a strange sort of limbo. She was a prisoner with luxuries, meals brought to her room, books from the library whenever she asked, even a laptop with restricted internet access so she could at least feel connected to the outside world. But the guards remained outside her door, and the boundaries of her cage, however gilded, were absolute. Leonardo had been absent. According to Rosa, he was dealing with the aftermath of the Romano attack. Retaliation, she said, though she wouldn't elaborate. Mia told herself she was relieved not to see him. Told herself she wasn't listening for his footsteps in the hallway. She was lying. On the 4th day, Rosa knocked on her door before entering with an armful of clothes. Mr. Costa wants you to join him for dinner tonight. In the formal dining room. What if I refuse? Rosa gave her a look that suggested she was being deliberately obtuse. Then he'll come get you himself and you'll both be in a worse mood. Is that what you want? I want to go home. I know, child. Rosa's expression softened. But until that's possible, you might as well eat a decent meal. Wear the blue dress. It suits you. The blue dress was hanging in the armoire, sapphire silk that probably cost more than she made in a month. Mia wanted to refuse on principle, but her choices were limited to clothes someone else had selected anyway. At least this one was beautiful. She dressed carefully, taking more time than necessary because it delayed the inevitable. The dress fit perfectly, hugging her curves before flowing to just above her knees. She left her hair down, applied minimal makeup, and stared at her reflection with something like despair. She looked like she belonged in Leonardo's world. Like she was preparing for a date instead of dinner with her captor. This is wrong. All of this is wrong. But when the guard knocked to escort her downstairs, she opened the door without protest. The formal dining room was even more impressive at night, with candles burning in silver holders and the chandelier dimmed to create an intimate atmosphere. A table that could seat 20 held settings for only 2, positioned at one end so they wouldn't be shouting across the distance. Leonardo was already there, standing by the window with a glass of wine in his hand. He'd dressed for the occasion too, dark slacks and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing those scarred forearms. His hair was still damp from a shower and he'd shaved, making him look younger. Almost civilized. Then he turned and those gray eyes locked onto her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Mia. Her name on his lips sounded different than when other people said it. Waited. Important. You look beautiful. Don't. The word came out sharper than she intended. Don't pretend this is something it's not. And what do you think this is? A performance. You playing the gentleman so I'll forget I'm your prisoner. Something flickered across his face, hurt maybe though it was gone too quickly to be sure. I invited you to dinner because I thought you might be going stir-crazy alone in your room. Not everything is a manipulation, Mia. Isn't it? Leonardo set his wine glass down with deliberate care. You're angry. I understand that. But if we're going to be living in the same house, we might as well try to be civil. We're not living together. You're holding me hostage. Semantics. He pulled out a chair. Please. Sit. Rosa prepared osso buco. I mentioned you liked it. Mia froze. How did you know that? You ordered it the last 3 times you ate at Valentino's. I assumed it was a favorite. At her horrified expression, he added, I had you investigated, remember? That included your dining habits. That's insane. You're insane. Perhaps. He didn't sound bothered by the accusation. But I'm also thorough. Now please sit before the food gets cold. Against her better judgment, Mia moved to the chair he'd pulled out. As she sat, Leonardo pushed it in with practiced ease, his hand briefly brushing her shoulder. The touch was so brief she might have imagined it, but her skin burned where his fingers had been. He took the seat across from her, and for a moment they just looked at each other across the candlelit table. Mia wanted to hate what she saw, the cold mafia boss who'd stolen her life. But in the soft light he just looked like a man. A tired, complicated man who was trying, in his own twisted way, to make things bearable. Rosa appeared with the first course, a delicate soup that smelled divine. She gave them both a knowing look before disappearing back to the kitchen. "You haven't asked about the Romanos," Leonardo said, picking up his spoon. "Would you tell me if I did?" "Yes." At her surprised look, he continued, "You're involved in this whether you want to be or not. You deserve to know what's happening." Mia set down her own spoon, her appetite vanishing. "What did you do?" "I sent them a message. 3 of their gambling operations were closed. Permanently." His tone was matter-of-fact. "And I let it be known that anyone who comes after what's mine will receive the same treatment." "What's yours?" "You mean me?" "Yes." "I'm not." She stopped, taking a breath. "You can't just declare people your property." "In my world I can. And I have." Leonardo leaned back in his chair, studying her. "The Romanos won't stop entirely. This feud has been going on for decades. But they'll think twice before attacking this house again. That means you're safer." "I'd be safer if you let me go." "You'd be dead within a week." He said it without heat, just simple fact. "Is that what you want?" "I want my life back." "That life is gone, Mia." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "The moment my men put you in that car, the moment the Romanos decided you were a Costa asset, that life ended. You can rage against it all you want, but it won't change reality. So what am I supposed to do? Just accept this? Accept being your prisoner forever? Accept being under my protection? There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting." Leonardo was quiet for a moment, then signaled Rosa to clear the soup course even though neither of them had finished. When they were alone again he spoke softly. "I know this isn't what you wanted. I know I've disrupted your entire existence. But I'm trying, Mia. I'm trying to make this bearable. By dressing me up and pretending we're on a date? By treating you like a person instead of a possession." His jaw tightened. "I could have locked you in a cell. I could have kept you isolated and terrified. I could have." He stopped himself. "But I didn't. Because despite what you think, I'm not a monster. You kill people. Yes. People who threaten what's mine. People who deserve it." He met her eyes. "But I don't hurt innocents. And I don't take pleasure in causing unnecessary pain." Before Mia could respond, one of Leonardo's men burst into the dining room. He was young, maybe early 20s, with wild eyes and the aggressive posture of someone trying too hard to prove himself. "Boss, the shipment from..." He stopped, noticing Mia. "Oh, sorry. Didn't know you had company." "It's fine, Marco." Leonardo's voice had gone cold. "What about the shipment?" "It's light." Someone skimmed off the top. Marco's eyes kept sliding to Mia, and there was something in his gaze that made her skin crawl. "But I guess you're too busy playing house with your little pet to deal with business, huh?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Leonardo stood slowly and there was murder in his eyes. "What did you just say?" Marco seemed to realize his mistake, but pride wouldn't let him back down. "I'm just saying, boss, maybe if you spent less time with the girl and more time running." He didn't get to finish. Leonardo crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and grabbed Marco by the throat, slamming him against the wall hard enough to rattle the paintings. The younger man's feet dangled off the ground. "Let me make something very clear," Leonardo said, his voice deadly quiet. "You will not speak about Miss Torres that way. You will not look at her that way. You will not even think about her that way. Do you understand me?" Marco made a choking sound, his face turning red. "I said, do you understand?" "Why, yes, boss." Leonardo dropped him. Marco fell to his knees, gasping for air. "Get out. And if I ever hear you disrespect her again, I'll cut your tongue out. Capice?" "Capice," Marco wheezed, scrambling toward the door. Leonardo turned back to Mia, his expression shifting from fury to concern in an instant. "I apologize. That was uncalled for." But Mia wasn't listening. She was frozen in her chair, her hands gripping the armrests so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Her breath was coming in short, sharp gasps, and there was a roaring in her ears that wouldn't stop. The violence. The grabbing. The way Marco had looked at her before, like she was a thing, not a person. And Leonardo's hands around someone's throat, squeezing, choking. "You're nothing. You're mine." Say it. Hands around her throat. Can't breathe. Can't scream. Say it. Mia? Leonardo's voice seemed to come from very far away. Mia, what's wrong? She couldn't answer. Couldn't see the dining room anymore. All she could see was another man, another time, another set of hands that had hurt instead of protected. Her ex-boyfriend, 3 years ago, the night she'd finally gotten the courage to leave him. The night he'd nearly killed her. Mia, breathe. Closer now. Leonardo was crouching in front of her chair, but she couldn't focus on his face. Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Come on, stay with me. She tried. God, she tried. But her lungs wouldn't work properly, and there were black spots dancing at the edges of her vision, and she was going to pass out or die or... Don't touch me. The words ripped out of her when she felt his hand near her arm. Don't. Leonardo pulled back immediately, his hands raised in surrender. Okay, I won't touch you. But I need you to breathe, Mia. You're having a panic attack. You need to breathe. Panic attack. Right. She'd had them before, in the months after she'd escaped. Her ex hadn't had one in over a year, thought she was past them. But apparently all it took was seeing violence up close again, seeing a man's hands around someone's throat. Focus on my voice, Leonardo was saying. His tone was completely different from the cold fury of moments ago, soft, gentle, almost hypnotic. You're safe. I promise you're safe. No one is going to hurt you. Can you hear me? Slowly, gradually, the world came back into focus. The roaring in her ears faded. Her lungs remembered how to work. She found herself staring into Leonardo's gray eyes, and there was something in them she'd never seen before. Fear. He was afraid for her. That's it, he murmured. Just like that. You're doing so well. Can you tell me 5 things you can see? It was a grounding technique. Mia remembered learning it from the therapist she'd seen after leaving her ex. She latched onto it like a lifeline. Candles, she whispered. Your shirt. The painting behind you. Rosa in the doorway. Your hands. Good. For things you can touch. The chair. The table. My dress. She looked down at her trembling hands. My skin. 3 things you can hear? Your voice. Rosa's breathing. The clock ticking. 2 things you can smell? Wine. And the flowers on the table. 1 thing you can taste? Fear. The word came out broken. I can taste fear. Leonardo's expression cracked, just for a moment, revealing something raw underneath. You don't need to be afraid. Not of me. Not here. You almost killed that man. I defended your honor. There's a difference. He sat back on his heels, putting more distance between them. But I frightened you. That wasn't my intention. Mia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm room. She could feel Rosa's concerned gaze from the doorway, could feel her own humiliation at having a breakdown in front of her captor. But more than that, she could feel the truth pressing against her lips, demanding to be spoken. I had a boyfriend, she heard herself say. 2 years. I thought I loved him. But he was controlling. Possessive. He'd get angry if I talked to other men, if I wore the wrong thing, if I didn't answer my phone fast enough. Leonardo's face had gone very still. It got worse over time. He started grabbing me when he was angry. Pushing me. One night I told him I wanted to break up and her voice broke. He put his hands around my throat. Said if he couldn't have me, no one would. I passed out. When I woke up, he was crying, apologizing, saying he'd never do it again. But he did, Leonardo said quietly. Not that. But other things. He'd break my stuff when he was mad. Punch walls. Scream at me until I was shaking. I knew I had to leave, but I was so scared of what he'd do if I tried. How did you get away? I waited until he passed out drunk. Packed a bag and ran. Moved to a different neighborhood, changed my number, blocked him on everything. Mia's hands were still shaking. He tried to find me for months. Showed up at my work, sent messages through friends. But eventually he gave up. Or found someone else to hurt. Leonardo's hands had curled into fists. What was his name? Why? What was his name? The deadly calm in his voice made her shiver. You can't, Leonardo, he's not worth it. He's not even in my life anymore. He hurt you. He terrorized you. He put his hands on you. Leonardo's eyes were blazing now. That makes him worth it. What's his name, Mia? I don't. Please. The single word held a world of restrained violence. Let me do this for you. Mia stared at him, at the cold fury in his face, and realized with a shock that he meant it. He would hunt down a man he'd never met, A man who'd hurt her years ago and make him pay. Not for his own honor or pride but for hers. David Chin, she whispered. But Leonardo, you can't just. Watch me. He stood, pulling his phone from his pocket. Marco. Get in here. The same man from before appeared in the doorway, still rubbing his throat. Boss. I need you to find someone. David Chin, late 20s, lived in South Boston 3 years ago. I want his current address, employment, known associates. And I want it within the hour. Boss, what? Do it. Now. Marco fled. Leonardo turned back to Mia, and his expression had softened again. He'll never hurt anyone again. I promise you that. You're going to kill him. No. Leonardo crouched down to her level again, careful not to touch her. I'm going to make sure he understands what happens to men who put their hands on women. And then I'm going to make sure he never forgets it. But I won't kill him, unless you want me to. I don't want you to kill anyone. Then I won't. Simple. Absolute. But he will know fear, Mia. The same fear he made you feel. That much I promise. She should argue. Should tell him this was wrong, that revenge wouldn't help, that violence never solved anything. But looking at Leonardo's face, at the protective fury there, the absolute conviction that he could and would destroy anyone who'd hurt her, Mia felt something shift inside her chest. This man terrified her. Owned her. Controlled her entire existence. But he also made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. Why? She asked softly. Why do you care? I'm nothing to you. Just a mistake your men made. Leonardo's jaw tightened. You're not nothing. You're... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. You're under my protection. Which means anyone who hurts you, anyone who even thinks about hurting you, they answer to me. That's not negotiable. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He stood, putting distance between them again. Rosa will bring you tea. Something calming. And I'll have the doctor send up something for the anxiety if you need it. I don't want drugs. I just want... What did she want? To go home? That life was gone. To be free? That was impossible. To feel safe? She already did, despite everything. I don't know what I want. Then rest. Think. And when you know, tell me. Leonardo moved toward the door, then paused. Mia? I'm sorry. For frightening you. For triggering your trauma. That was never my intention. I know. And somehow, terrifyingly, she did know. Could hear the genuine remorse in his voice. He left, and Rosa immediately appeared with the promised tea, chamomile with honey, and something else that smelled medicinal. Mia drank it mechanically, barely tasting it. He's not like your ex, Rosa said quietly, sitting beside her. I know it's hard to see that right now. But Leonardo, he's violent, yes. He does terrible things. But never to those who don't deserve it. And never ever to someone he's claimed as his to protect. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. But it's the truth. Rosa took Mia's hand, her grip warm and steady. That boy tonight, Marco, he disrespected you. In Leonardo's world, that's unforgivable. He was defending your honor, not asserting dominance over you. By choking someone. By making sure everyone in this house knows that you are not to be touched, spoken to inappropriately, or treated as anything less than what you are. Rosa squeezed her hand. Like it or not, child, you've been claimed by a man who takes his responsibilities seriously. And one of those responsibilities is making sure you feel safe. I don't feel safe. I feel trapped. Sometimes, Rosa said gently, those things can be true at the same time. Later that night, after Rosa had helped her upstairs and made sure she was settled, Mia lay in her enormous bed staring at the ceiling. Her mind wouldn't stop replaying the evening, Marco's leering eyes, Leonardo's hands around his throat, her own panic attack, the conversation that had followed. And Leonardo's voice, soft and deadly. What was his name? She'd given it to him. God help her, she told him David's name, knowing what he'd do with that information. And part of her, a dark, vindictive part she didn't want to acknowledge, was glad. A soft knock at her door made her tense. It's me, Leonardo's voice came through the wood. Can I come in? Every instinct screamed at her to say no. But she found herself saying, yes. He entered quietly, closing the door behind him. He'd changed into jeans and a t-shirt, looking more human and less mafia boss. His hands were bandaged, she hadn't noticed that before. What happened to your hands? She asked. Leonardo glanced down at the bandages. I had a conversation with David Chin. Mia sat up. What? How did you? It's only been a few hours. I have extensive resources. He moved to the chair by her window, keeping his distance. He's alive. Intact. But he understands now what happens if he ever approaches you again. Or any woman, for that matter. Leonardo. He'll be leaving Boston. Tonight. I've made sure he has motivation to relocate somewhere far away and never return. His eyes met hers. You'll never have to worry about him again. Mia didn't know what to say. Should she be horrified? Grateful? Both? I also wanted to apologize, Leonardo continued. For this evening. I should have controlled my temper better, especially knowing. He stopped. I never want to be someone who makes you afraid. But you do make me afraid. I know. He looked away. I'm trying to figure out how to change that. By hunting down my ex-boyfriend? By showing you that I'm different. That when I say I'll protect you, I mean it. Not just from external threats, but from anyone who's ever hurt you. His gaze returned to her face. You're under my protection, Mia. That means something to me. It means everything. She stared at him, this dangerous, violent man who'd just gone to war with her past for her sake. Why? Because you're mine. He said it simply, like it explained everything. And I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with promise. But you will be. Eventually. You can't just decide that. Can't I? Leonardo stood, moving toward the door. Get some rest, Mia. Tomorrow we'll start teaching you about this world. About how to survive in it. About what it means to be under Costa protection. I don't want to learn about your world. Then learn for your sake. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. Because like it or not, you're part of it now. And the better you understand it, the safer you'll be. He left before she could respond, and Mia was alone again with her thoughts. But this time, mixed in with the fear and confusion and anger, there was something else. Something warm and dangerous and utterly terrifying. The beginning of trust. Because Leonardo Costa had done something for her tonight that no one else ever had. He'd taken her trauma seriously. He'd hunted down the man who'd hurt her and made sure he'd never do it again. He'd shown her, in his own twisted way, that she mattered. That she was worth protecting. Even if the protector was the most dangerous man she'd ever met. Mia closed her eyes, and for the first time since her kidnapping, she felt something like peace settle over her. It wouldn't last, she knew that. There were too many complications, too many dangers, too much wrong with this entire situation. But for tonight, she let herself feel protected. Even if it was by the wrong man. In the wrong world. At the wrong time. But maybe, just maybe, in exactly the right way. Chapter 4. Marked for protection. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange rhythm. Mornings, Mia would wake to find breakfast waiting and Rosa checking in on her. Afternoons, Leonardo would appear. Sometimes to share lunch, sometimes to walk the gardens, sometimes just to sit in comfortable silence while she read. He never pushed, never demanded, just existed in her space until his presence started to feel normal. Evenings were different. That's when he'd teach her about his world. The Romanos have been our enemies for 3 generations, Leonardo explained one night, spreading a map of Boston across his desk. Mia sat across from him, watching his fingers trace territorial boundaries. It started over a shipment dispute in the 50s. Escalated when my grandfather killed Vincent Romano's father. Now it's just ongoing. Neither side can back down without losing face. That's insane. That's family. He glanced up at her. In this world, blood debts never expire. You carry your father's enemies, his father's enemies, back through generations. It's not about logic anymore. It's about honor. Honor. Mia shook her head. You say that word like it means something. It's the only thing that means anything. Leonardo leaned back in his chair. Take it away and we're just criminals. Give us honor, codes, traditions, and we're a society. Flawed, violent, but with rules. What are the rules? Don't involve civilians. Don't harm women or children. Don't break your word. Pay your debts. He ticked them off on his fingers. And protect what's yours no matter the cost. I'm not yours. We've had this conversation. But his tone was gentle, almost teasing. You're under my protection. Semantics aside, that makes you mine. Mia wanted to argue, but the words felt hollow now. Because the truth was, as the days passed, she was starting to understand what he meant. Protection and possession were intertwined in his world. You couldn't have one without the other. And somewhere along the way she'd stopped fighting it quite so hard. Tell me about the mark, she said instead, changing the subject. You mentioned putting a family mark on me. Leonardo's expression grew serious. It's a tattoo. Small, usually placed somewhere visible but not obvious. It identifies the bearer as under Costa protection. Anyone in the underworld who sees it knows touching you means war. And you want to put one on me? Yes. No hesitation. It would keep you safer. Or mark me as your property permanently. Both. At least he was honest. But Mia, the Romanos won't stop. They've been quiet lately, but that doesn't mean they've given up. If you wore our mark, it would give them pause. Make them think twice. What if I don't want it? Leonardo was quiet for a moment. Then I won't force you. But I'm asking you to consider it. Before Mia could respond, Marco burst through the door, the same Marco who disrespected her at dinner, now sporting a healing black eye and showing considerably more deference. Boss, we have a problem. The shipment from New York. Someone tipped off the feds. They're all over the port. Leonardo's entire demeanor changed. How much did we lose? All of it. 20 million in merchandise, plus 3 men in custody. Fuck. Leonardo stood, already moving toward the door. Then he paused, looking back at Mia. Stay in the house. Don't go near the windows. I'll have Rosa. I'll be fine, Mia said, surprising herself. Go handle your business. He studied her for a moment, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he nodded and left, Marco following. Mia sat alone in the study, listening to the house come alive with urgent activity. Men running, cars starting, voices shouting in Italian. Whatever was happening, it was serious. She should have been pleased. His distraction meant less attention on her, maybe even a chance to what? Escape? Where would she go? Leonardo had been telling the truth about the Romanos. She'd seen the proof in news articles Rosa had shown her. 3 more Costa operations hit in the past 2 weeks, all traced back to Vincent Romano's organization. The man was escalating, getting bolder. And she was the excuse for all of it. Rosa appeared in the doorway. Come, child. We should get you somewhere more secure until the boss returns. Is it that serious? When the feds are involved? Yes. Rosa's face was grim. It means someone very close betrayed us. And until Leonardo roots them out, no one is safe. They were halfway up the stairs when the lights went out. The entire house plunged into darkness, and somewhere in the distance, Mia heard the distinct sound of generators failing. Emergency lights kicked in a moment later, casting everything in eerie red. That's not good, Rosa muttered. That's. The explosion came from the east wing. The shockwave knocked them both off their feet. Mia hit the stairs hard, her head cracking against the banister. Stars burst across her vision, and when she tried to sit up, the world tilted sickeningly. Rosa? Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. No response. Mia blinked, trying to clear her vision, and saw Rosa lying motionless a few steps below her. Blood was pooling under her head. Rosa. Mia scrambled toward her, ignoring the pain shooting through her own skull. She pressed her fingers to Rosa's neck, sobbing with relief when she felt a pulse. Rosa, please wake up. Footsteps. Running. Multiple people, moving with military precision. Not Leonardo's men. She knew the sound of their footsteps by now. Romanos. Mia tried to stand, to run, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The world was spinning, and there was something warm trickling down the side of her face. Blood. She was bleeding. Found her. A voice from above. Second floor near the stairs. And she's hurt, boss will want her alive. Hands grabbed her arms, hauling her upright. Mia tried to fight, but her body wasn't responding properly. Everything felt distant, muffled, like she was underwater. Let me go, she slurred. Rosa, she needs help. Shut up. Something hard pressed against her temple. A gun. Move and I'll shoot your friend. Cooperate and she might survive. They dragged her down the stairs, past Rosa's unconscious form, through hallways filled with smoke and chaos. Mia caught glimpses of Leonardo's men fighting Romano soldiers, heard gunfire and screams, but it all seemed to be happening somewhere far away. The front door had been blown off its hinges. Cool night air hit her face, reviving her slightly. She could see the grounds lit up by fires, the gatehouse burning, several cars ablaze. And in the circular driveway, a black van with its doors open. They were going to take her. Really take her this time. Leonardo, she whispered. Leonardo. Your precious Leonardo isn't here, one of her captors laughed. He ran off to save his shipment like a good dog. Left you all alone. Some protector. They were almost to the van when she heard it, the roar of an engine getting closer. Headlights swept across the driveway, and a car came screaming around the corner, traveling at a speed that should have been impossible. Leonardo's car. It didn't slow down. It aimed directly for the van, for the men holding her, and at the last second swerved, slamming sideways into the vehicle with a screech of metal. The impact sent the men stumbling and Mia fell to the ground, her vision swimming. The driver's door opened and Leonardo emerged like an avenging angel. He had a gun in each hand and murder in his eyes. "Get away from her." The words echoed across the grounds with such fury that even the men fighting elsewhere paused. Leonardo's face was a mask of rage unlike anything Mia had ever seen. Blood, not his own, splattered his clothes and there was something almost inhuman in his expression. "Boss," one of the Romano soldiers started. "We were just—" Leonardo shot him. No warning, no hesitation. Just raised his gun and put a bullet through the man's skull. The other men holding Mia released her immediately, reaching for their own weapons. But Leonardo was faster. He moved through them like death incarnate, shooting, dodging, killing with brutal efficiency. In less than 30 seconds all 5 men were down. Then he was running toward her, and Mia had never seen such naked fear on his face. "Mia. Mia, look at me." He fell to his knees beside her, his hands hovering over her but not touching, like he was afraid she'd break. "Where are you hurt? Talk to me, Principessa." "Rosa," Mia managed. "Inside. She's hurt. I'll send someone." He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Can you stand?" "I think so. My head." "You're bleeding." His voice cracked on the words. "Fuck, there's so much blood." "I'm okay," she said even though she wasn't sure if that was true. "Leonardo, I'm okay." He pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling her head and she felt him shaking. Leonardo Costa, the cold Mafia boss who killed without flinching, was shaking while holding her. "I almost lost you," he whispered into her hair. "I was across town and Marco called and I drove back faster than I've ever driven and I thought I'd be too late." "You weren't." Mia's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on because she wasn't sure she could stand without him. "You saved me. I should have been here. Should have known this was a distraction." He pulled back just enough to look at her face, his thumbs gently wiping blood away from her temple. "This is my fault. All of it." Around them the battle was winding down. Leonardo's men had overwhelmed the remaining Romano soldiers, and the grounds were littered with bodies. But all Mia could focus on was Leonardo's face, the anguish there, the barely controlled violence. "Boss." Marco appeared, his own face covered in soot. "We've secured the perimeter. But they got away. Vincent Romano himself was here. He took off when you arrived. Find him." Leonardo's voice had gone deadly calm. "I want him found. I want everyone who helped plan this attack found. And I want them brought to me alive." "Yes, boss." "And get the doctor. Rosa's injured inside and Mia needs medical attention." "Leonardo, I'm fine," Mia started, but he silenced her with a look. "You have a head wound and you can barely stand. You're not fine." He stood, lifting her with him like she weighed nothing. "I'm taking you to the medical wing. Don't argue." She didn't. Partly because her head was pounding and she felt dizzy, but mostly because being in his arms felt safe. Even covered in blood, even surrounded by death, Leonardo's embrace was the only place she wanted to be. He carried her through the damaged house, barking orders at anyone they passed. The medical wing had escaped the worst of the damage, and the doctor was already there treating Rosa, who was conscious now, thank God, though she had a nasty gash on her forehead. "Mia." Rosa tried to sit up. "Is she?" "I'm okay," Mia called. "Stay still, Rosa. Let them help you." Leonardo set her on an examination table and finally stepped back, though his hand stayed on her shoulder like he couldn't quite let go. The doctor, the same tired-looking man from before, began examining her head wound. "Concussion definitely," he murmured. "But the skull isn't fractured. She'll need to stay awake for the next few hours, and someone should monitor her for signs of—" "I'll monitor her." Leonardo's tone left no room for argument. "Sir, you should also let me check." "I'm fine. Focus on her." The doctor knew better than to argue with that tone. He cleaned and dressed Mia's wound, gave her something for the pain, and instructed Leonardo on what signs to watch for. Through it all, Leonardo stayed close, his hand never leaving her shoulder, his eyes never leaving her face. When the doctor finally left them alone, Leonardo sank into a chair and put his face in his hands. For a long moment he just sat there, breathing hard, and Mia realized he was trying to get himself under control. "Leonardo? I can't do this anymore." His voice was muffled by his hands. "I can't keep almost losing you. I can't keep watching you be in danger because of my choices, my world, my enemies." Then let me go. No. He looked up and his eyes were blazing. Never. That's not an option anymore. Then what is? Leonardo stood and moved to a drawer in the medical cabinet. When he turned back, he was holding a small box. He opened it to reveal a tattoo gun, ink and stencils. This is, he said quietly. Mia stared at the contents of the box. The family mark. Yes. He moved closer, setting the box on the table beside her. I wanted to ask permission. Wanted to wait until you were ready. But after tonight, I can't wait anymore. His hand cupped her face with surprising gentleness. Please. Let me mark you. Let me make sure every criminal in this city knows that touching you means death. Leonardo. I know what you're going to say. That it makes you my property. That it takes away your choice. And you're right. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. But it also keeps you alive. And right now, that's all I care about. Mia looked at him, at the blood on his clothes, the desperation in his eyes, the way his hand trembled slightly against her face. This man who'd killed for her, who'd driven across town like a demon when she was in danger, who was literally shaking at the thought of losing her. This man who terrified her and protected her and made her feel things she had no right to feel. Where? She asked quietly. Relief flooded his face. Anywhere you want. Most people choose somewhere easily covered. Inner wrist, behind the ear, ankle. You choose. Leonardo's eyes darkened. Mia. You're the one who needs to know I'm safe. You choose where to put your mark. He stared at her for a long moment, something fierce and possessive and almost reverent in his expression. Then he took her left hand and turned it palm up, his fingers tracing the delicate skin of her inner wrist. Here, he said softly. Where I can see it every time I touch you. Where everyone can see it if they look closely enough. Where you'll see it constantly and remember that you're protected. Will it hurt? Yes. He didn't lie to her. But I'll be as gentle as I can. And I'll do it myself. I won't let anyone else touch you. You know how to tattoo? I gave myself my first mark when I was 16. He pulled up his sleeve, revealing an intricate design on his inner forearm, the Costa family crest. My father said if I couldn't handle the pain of the needle, I couldn't handle the pain of leading. So I learned. Mia took a shaky breath. Okay. Do it. Leonardo's hands were completely steady as he prepared the equipment. He cleaned her wrist with careful precision, then pressed the stencil to her skin. When he pulled it away, she could see the design, a small but intricate symbol that combined a crown with a rose, no bigger than a quarter. The Costa mark, he explained. Crown for power, rose for beauty. Every member of the family has some version of it. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. He positioned the tattoo gun. Ready? Yes. The first touch of the needle made her flinch, but Leonardo's free hand immediately covered hers, steadying her. Breathe, Principessa. Just breathe. The pain was sharp but bearable, and having Leonardo so focused on her, his brow furrowed in concentration, his touch gentle despite the task, it made the pain secondary. Mia found herself watching his face instead of the tattoo, mesmerized by the care he took, the almost reverent way he worked. Why do you call me that? She asked. Principessa. Leonardo glanced up briefly, a small smile touching his lips. Because that's what you are. A princess who wandered into a king's court. And now, he returned his attention to the tattoo, now you're my princess. That's very presumptuous. Yes. No apology in his tone. They fell into silence as he worked, the only sound the buzz of the tattoo gun and their synchronized breathing. After about 20 minutes, Leonardo sat back. Done. He cleaned the fresh tattoo gently, then applied a bandage. It'll be sore for a few days. Don't get it wet, don't pick at it, and come to me if it shows any signs of infection. Mia looked at the bandage covering her wrist. Underneath it was Leonardo's mark. His claim. His promise of protection that came with the price of possession. She should feel trapped. Should feel like she'd just given up the last piece of her freedom. But instead she felt safe. Like she'd been given a shield that no one could penetrate. Thank you, she said softly. Leonardo's hand tightened on hers. I should be thanking you. For trusting me. For letting me protect you properly. I'm not sure I had much choice. You always have a choice, Mia. You could have said no. His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. But you didn't. And that means more to me than you know. A knock at the door interrupted them. Marco stuck his head in, his expression grim. Boss, we found something you need to see. Leonardo's entire demeanor shifted, the gentle man disappearing behind the cold Mafia boss. What? Security footage from tonight. Vincent Romano, he was here for her specifically. Had photos, descriptions, everything. Marco's eyes flicked to Mia. He called her by name. Said he'd been watching her since before we even took her. The room went very still. What are you saying? Leonardo's voice was deadly quiet. I'm saying this wasn't about retaliation or pride. Vincent Romano knew about Mia Torres before we did. Which means she wasn't taken by mistake. Leonardo's hand clenched on Mia's. The wrong girl theory, that was wrong. She was always the target. Mia's blood ran cold. What? No, that doesn't make sense. Why would? I don't know yet. Leonardo stood, his face a mask of cold fury. But I'm going to find out. Marco, I want every piece of information we have on Vincent Romano's operations for the past year. I want to know every person he's talked to, every deal he's made, every breath he's taken. And I want to know why he wanted Mia. On it, boss. After Marco left, Leonardo turned back to Mia. She could see him trying to control his emotions, trying to present the calm, controlled face he showed the world. But his eyes betrayed him. There was fear there and rage and something that looked almost like guilt. I thought I was protecting you from a mistake, he said quietly. But if this was planned, if you were specifically targeted, then someone out there knows something about you that makes you valuable. Or dangerous. Or both. Leonardo, I'm nobody. I told you that. I don't know anything, I don't have anything. Then why does Vincent Romano want you badly enough to risk open war with my family? His hands cupped her face. There's something, Mia. Something we're missing. And until we figure out what it is, you're not safe. You're not. He stopped, his jaw clenching. Not what? Mia prompted. Not just mine to protect anymore. His voice was rough. You're mine to keep. Because whatever game Vincent is playing, whatever reason he wants you, I'm not letting him have you. Not now. Not ever. Even if I want to leave? Leonardo's eyes bored into hers. Especially then. Because whatever this is, it's bigger than your freedom or my possession. It's life and death, Mia. And I choose life. I choose keeping you breathing even if you hate me for it. Mia stared at him, at the absolute conviction on his face, and felt something inside her shift. This wasn't about control anymore. This was about survival. And Leonardo Costa, with all his violence and darkness and obsessive protection, might be the only thing standing between her and whatever Vincent Romano had planned. I don't hate you, she admitted quietly. Leonardo's expression softened. You should. Probably. She looked down at the bandage on her wrist. But I don't. I should be terrified of you. Should want to run. But when you're around, I feel. What? Safe. The word came out barely above a whisper. Even though you're dangerous, even though you've killed people, even though you're keeping me prisoner, when you're around, I feel safe. Leonardo closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there was something raw and vulnerable in his gaze. Good. Because keeping you safe is the only thing that matters to me anymore. He pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling her head. I'm sorry, Principessa. Sorry you got dragged into this. Sorry my world touched yours. But I'm not sorry for keeping you. And I'm not sorry for marking you. Because you're mine now in every way that counts. Mia let herself lean into his embrace, let herself feel protected by the most dangerous man she'd ever met. Outside, the house was being secured. Rosa was being treated. The dead were being removed. The war with the Romanos was escalating. But in this moment, wrapped in Leonardo's arms, with his mark fresh on her wrist and his heart beating against her ear, Mia felt something she hadn't felt in years. Claimed. Wanted. Protected. And terrifyingly, she was starting to realize she didn't want to be anything else. Chapter 5. The night everything changes. The doctor insisted Mia stay awake for at least 6 hours after the head injury. Leonardo took that responsibility personally, dismissing everyone else and carrying her to his private quarters. A suite of rooms she'd never seen before. His bedroom was surprisingly understated for a mafia boss. Dark walls, minimal furniture, a massive bed with black sheets. But what caught her attention were the bookshelves lining one wall, packed with everything from classic literature to architectural texts. And on his desk, barely visible in the low light, were sketches. Buildings. Designs. Dreams of a different life. You kept drawing, Mia said softly as he set her down on a leather sofa near the fireplace. Leonardo glanced at the desk, then away. Old habits. He grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. How's your head? It hurts, but I'm okay. She touched the bandage on her temple. Leonardo, what you said earlier, about me being the target all along. Do you really think? I don't know what to think yet. He sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. But Marco's looking into it. For now you need to rest. And I need to make sure you don't fall asleep. So what do we do for 6 hours? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Talk. Play chess. I could read to you. You'd read to me? Why do you sound so surprised? Because you're a mafia boss who kills people for a living. Reading to someone seems very domestic. I'm also a man who enjoys books. He moved to the shelf and pulled one down. My mother used to read to me when I was young. Before she got sick. It's one of my better memories. Mia watched him settle back beside her, opening the book to a marked page. It was in Italian, poetry from what she could see. His voice was different when he read, softer and more musical, the harsh edges smoothed away by the familiar words. She didn't understand most of it, but she didn't need to. The sound of his voice was enough, a low rumble that seemed to resonate in her chest, making her feel safe and drowsy and hyper-aware of how close he was sitting. What does it mean? She asked when he paused. Leonardo was quiet for a moment. It's a love poem. About a man who finds beauty in darkness, who falls for a woman he shouldn't want but can't live without. His eyes met hers. It doesn't end well. Most love stories in your world don't, I'm guessing. No. In my world, love is a weakness. Something enemies exploit. He closed the book. Which is why most of us marry for alliances, not affection. Is that what you'll do? Marry someone your family chooses? My family is gone. There's no one left to choose for me. His fingers traced the edge of the book absently. But yes, eventually I'll need to marry. Produce an heir. Continue the bloodline. It's expected. Something uncomfortable twisted in Mia's chest. Sounds romantic. It's practical. He set the book aside and turned to face her fully. But that's not what I want. What I want is... He stopped himself. What? Leonardo's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone with heartbreaking gentleness. Something I have no right to want. Mia's breath caught. They were too close. She could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell his cologne mixed with smoke and copper. Everything about this moment was dangerous. She should pull away. Should put distance between them. Should remember that he was her captor, that this was wrong, that nothing good could come from whatever was building between them. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch. Maybe you should take it anyway. Leonardo's eyes darkened. Mia. You said I always have a choice. So I'm choosing. Her hand came up to cover his. I'm choosing this. Whatever this is. You're concussed. The painkillers might be affecting your judgment. My judgment was affected the moment you sat beside me in the garden and told me about your mother. Mia's voice was steady despite her racing heart. This isn't the drugs talking, Leonardo. This is me choosing you even though I shouldn't. Even though it's insane. It is insane. But his thumb was still tracing patterns on her skin, and his eyes were locked on her mouth. You should hate me. I know. You should want to escape. I know. You should. Mia kissed him. She'd meant it to be soft, exploratory, a tentative crossing of the line they'd been dancing around for weeks. But the moment their lips met, something ignited between them. Leonardo made a sound low in his throat, part surrender, part claim, and his hand slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. It was nothing like kissing had been with her ex. David had kissed to control, to dominate, to take. Leonardo kissed like he was memorizing her, learning her, worshipping her. His lips were firm but gentle, demanding but giving, and when his tongue traced the seam of her mouth, Mia opened for him without hesitation. Heat flooded through her, pooling low in her belly. She'd thought she understood attraction, had felt desire before. But this was different. This was consuming. This was... Leonardo pulled back, breathing hard. We need to stop. Why? Because you're injured. Because you're vulnerable. Because He closed his eyes, his jaw clenching. Because if we don't stop now, I won't be able to stop at all. Mia's hand trembled as she reached up to touch his face. Then don't stop. Mia. I want this. I want you. The admission should have terrified her. Instead it felt like relief. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But I want you, Leonardo. And I think you want me too. Want you. His laugh was harsh. I've wanted you since the moment you looked at me with those defiant eyes and refused to cower. I've wanted you every time you challenged me, every time you smiled at something Rosa said, every time you fell asleep reading in the library. I want you so badly it's destroying me because wanting you is dangerous. For both of us. Then let's be dangerous together. She pulled him back down, her lips finding his. Just for tonight. Let's forget about enemies and protection and what we should or shouldn't do. Let's just be. Leonardo resisted for exactly 3 seconds. Then he was kissing her again, deeper this time, more desperate. His hands framed her face like she was something precious, even as his mouth claimed hers like he'd die without it. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her lips. Tell me this is a mistake and I'll walk away right now. Don't you dare walk away. He groaned, and then he was lifting her, carrying her toward the bed. If we do this, there's no going back. You understand that? You'll be mine in every way that matters. I'm already yours. The truth of it should have scared her. It didn't? I have been since you wrapped your jacket around me and called me Principessa. Leonardo laid her on the bed with surprising gentleness, then stood back, his chest heaving. In the firelight he looked like some dark angel, beautiful and terrible and utterly mesmerizing. His hands went to his shirt, pulling it over his head in one fluid motion. Mia's breath caught. She'd seen him shirtless before, but not like this. Not with intent. The scars she'd noticed before were even more extensive than she'd thought, a roadmap of violence written across his skin. But underneath the scars was sculpted muscle, proof of a life spent fighting and surviving. I'm not a good man, he said quietly, his hands stilling on his belt. I've done terrible things. Hurt people. Killed people. Even standing here now, I know I'm taking advantage of the situation. Of your vulnerability. But I can't walk away from you, Mia. Not anymore. Good. She sat up, reaching for him. Because I don't want a good man. I want you. Leonardo closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his mouth finding hers again as he knelt on the bed. His hands were everywhere, in her hair, on her waist, sliding up her sides with reverent appreciation. Every touch was deliberate, controlled, like he was holding himself back through sheer force of will. Tell me if I hurt you, he murmured against her neck. Tell me if anything is too much. Tell me. Leonardo. Mia's hands fisted in his hair, pulling him back so she could look into his eyes. I'm not fragile. I'm not going to break. And I trust you not to hurt me. Something fierce and almost painful crossed his face. You shouldn't trust me. But I do. He kissed her again, and this time there was less restraint. His hands found the hem of her shirt, one of his own that she'd been wearing, and pulled it up and off. His eyes darkened as he took her in, and Mia felt heat flood her face. Beautiful, he breathed. Sei così bella principessa. Then his mouth was on her collarbone, her shoulder, the sensitive spot behind her ear. He mapped her body with his lips and hands, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into his touch. And when his mouth finally found her breast, Mia cried out, her hands clutching at his shoulders. That's it, Leonardo murmured against her skin. Let me hear you. Let me know what you like. He was nothing like David. Where her ex had been rough and selfish, Leonardo was attentive and generous. He took his time, building her pleasure slowly, watching her face for every reaction. And when Mia's hands fumbled with his belt, trying to return the favor, he caught her wrist gently. Not yet, he said, his voice rough. Tonight is about you. About showing you what it means to be worshipped instead of just wanted. Leonardo. Shoo. He kissed her softly. Let me take care of you. And he did. With hands and mouth, and whispered words in Italian that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. He took her apart slowly, methodically, until she was trembling and desperate and begging for more. Only then did he finally shed the rest of his clothes and settle between her thighs. He paused there, his forehead resting against hers, his breathing ragged. Last chance, he said hoarsely. Tell me to stop and I will. No matter how much it kills me. Mia wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer. Don't stop. Don't ever stop. Leonardo's eyes burned into hers as he slowly, carefully joined their bodies. Mia gasped at the sensation, the stretch, the fullness, the overwhelming intimacy of it. He stayed still, giving her time to adjust, his jaw clenched with the effort of control. Okay, he managed. Yes. God, yes. She rolled her hips experimentally and his eyes nearly rolled back. Mia, if you do that again, I'm not going to last. She did it again. Leonardo groaned and started to move, each thrust controlled and deliberate. But as Mia met him stroke for stroke, as her nails dug into his back and she gasped his name, his control began to slip. He moved faster, deeper, and the angle was perfect, hitting something inside her that made stars burst across her vision. Leonardo, I can't. Yes, you can. His hands slid between their bodies, finding the bundle of nerves that made her cry out. "Come for me, Principessa. Let me feel you." The combination of his movements and his touch was too much. Mia shattered, her body arching as pleasure crashed through her in waves. She heard herself crying out his name, felt him move faster, harder, chasing his own release. Leonardo followed her over the edge with a groan, burying his face in her neck as his body shuddered. For a long moment they stayed locked together, both breathing hard, both trembling with aftershocks. Finally, Leonardo rolled to the side, pulling her with him so she was tucked against his chest. His heart was hammering under her ear, and his arms around her were possessive but gentle. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "I didn't hurt you?" "No. You didn't hurt me." Mia pressed a kiss to his chest. I've never. Neither have I." At her surprised look he clarified, "Not like that. Not with someone I—" He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. "Not with someone who matters." "I matter?" "More than you should." His hand stroked through her hair. "More than is safe or smart or good for either of us. But yes, Mia. You matter." She should ask what that meant. Should ask what happened now, where they went from here. But exhaustion was pulling at her, and despite the doctor's orders to stay awake, her eyes were growing heavy. "Don't let me sleep," she mumbled. "Concussion." "I've got you." Leonardo's voice was soft. "I'll watch over you. I promise." "Why do you call me Principessa?" "Because you are one. My princess. He paused. "Mine." Possessive. Unforgivably so. But there was no apology in his tone. Mia should argue. Should remind him that she wasn't his possession, that what they just shared didn't mean ownership. But wrapped in his arms, safe and sated and content for the first time in weeks, she found she didn't want to argue. "Tell me something," she said instead. "Something real. Something you've never told anyone." Leonardo was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Then, when my mother died, I cried for 3 days straight. My father found me on the 3rd day and beat me until I stopped. Said, 'Costa, men don't cry. Don't show weakness.' From that day on, I trained myself not to feel. To be cold. To be what he wanted me to be." Mia's heart ached for the boy he'd been. "I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me strong. Made me survive." His arms tightened around her. "But with you I feel things again. Things I thought I'd buried so deep they were gone. And I don't know if that makes you my salvation or my destruction. Maybe both. Maybe." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Tell me something now. Something real." Mia took a breath. "When I left David, I was convinced I'd never trust another man again. Never let anyone close enough to hurt me. I built walls so high I thought nothing could get through them. And now I'm lying naked in bed with a mafia boss who kidnapped me, and somehow I feel safer than I've felt in years." She tilted her head to look at him. "You broke through every wall I had, Leonardo. I don't know how, but you did." His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "I'm going to keep you safe. No matter what it takes. No matter what I have to do. Vincent Romano, the Romanos, anyone who tries to hurt you, they'll have to go through me first. That's a dangerous promise. It's the only promise that matters." He pulled her closer. "You're mine now, Mia. In every way. And I protect what's mine." She should be frightened by the possessiveness in his voice, by the absolute conviction that she belonged to him. But instead she felt cherished. Claimed in a way that had nothing to do with force and everything to do with choice. Because she had chosen this. Chosen him. Chosen to let down her walls and give herself to the most dangerous man she'd ever met. They lay together in silence, the fire crackling softly, the house settling around them. Outside, Leonardo's men were securing the property, cleaning up the aftermath of the attack. But in this room, in this moment, there was only the two of them. "I need to tell you something," Leonardo said after a while. "About what Marco found." Mia tensed. "What?" "Your father." He said it gently, but the words still hit like a blow. "Did you ever know him?" "No. My mother said he died before I was born." "Why?" Leonardo's jaw tightened. "Because Vincent Romano has been asking questions about a man named Thomas Torres, who died 25 years ago, who worked for the Romano family before someone killed him." Mia's blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your father wasn't just some random man. He was connected to the Romanos. And if Vincent is looking for you specifically, it might be because of who your father was. Or what he knew. Or what he had that Vincent wants. But I don't know anything about that. I never even met him." "You wouldn't need to. If your father hid something, left something behind, you might be the only person who can access it. Leonardo's hand stroked through her hair, soothing. I'm having Marco dig deeper. But Mia, this changes things. This means you weren't just wrong place, wrong time. You've been a target all along. So what does that mean for me? It means you're not going anywhere. It means my protection isn't temporary, it's permanent. His eyes met hers, intense and unwavering. It means you really are mine now. And I'm keeping you no matter what Vincent Romano wants. Mia should be terrified. Should be planning escape. Should be doing anything except melting further into Leonardo's embrace. But the truth was she didn't want to escape anymore. Somewhere between the kidnapping and the protection, the fear and the passion, she'd stopped seeing Leonardo as her captor and started seeing him as hers. As dangerous and wrong and completely insane as that was. What if I want to be kept? She whispered. Leonardo's breath caught. What? What if I'm tired of running? Tired of being alone? What if? She swallowed hard. What if I want to stay? You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. She pushed herself up on her elbow to look at him properly. I'm saying that for the first time in my life I feel like I belong somewhere. With someone. And I know it's crazy and I know this whole situation is insane, but I don't care anymore, Leonardo. I don't want to leave. Leonardo stared at her for a long moment, emotions warring across his face. Then he pulled her down into a kiss that was tender and possessive and absolutely devastating. Then don't, he murmured against her lips. Stay. Be mine. Let me keep you safe and warm and cherished. Let me give you everything you've never had. What about what you've never had? His smile was soft and sad. You already gave me that. The moment you chose me. They fell asleep eventually, despite the concussion protocol, wrapped around each other like they were afraid to let go. And when Mia woke hours later to find Leonardo still holding her, still watching over her with fierce protectiveness in his sleeping face, she realized something terrifying and wonderful. She was falling in love with her captor. With the wrong man at the wrong time, in the worst possible circumstances. But somehow, impossibly, it felt exactly right. Chapter 6, Consequences. Mia woke to an empty bed and the sound of raised voices downstairs. For a moment, she just lay there, wrapped in Leonardo's scent, cologne and smoke and something uniquely him, staring at the ceiling and trying to process what had happened last night. She'd slept with him. More than that, she'd given herself to him completely, body and soul, and then told him she wanted to stay. What was I thinking? The morning light made everything feel different. Less like a romantic fantasy and more like a terrible mistake. She was still a prisoner, regardless of what she'd said last night. Still trapped in a world of violence and death. Still someone who'd been taken against her will. The fact that she'd started to enjoy her cage didn't make it less of a cage. Mia sat up, wincing at the tenderness between her thighs, a reminder of exactly how thoroughly Leonardo had claimed her. Her clothes from last night were scattered across the floor. On the nightstand, someone had left fresh clothes and a note in bold, masculine handwriting. Had to deal with business. Stay in the room. I'll bring breakfast. Oh, stay in the room. Like a dog being told to stay. Like property. The voices downstairs grew louder, and Mia recognized Leonardo's tone, cold, furious, dangerous. Someone was getting reamed out, probably over the attack last night. She should be glad he was distracted, should use this opportunity to what? Her hand drifted to her wrist, to the bandage covering his mark. Underneath, his symbol was permanently etched into her skin. His claim. His possession. I told him I wanted to stay. I meant it, didn't I? But in the harsh light of morning, doubt crept in. How much of last night had been genuine feeling, and how much had been trauma bonding? Stockholm Syndrome? She'd read about it, how captives could develop feelings for their captors as a survival mechanism. Was that all this was? Mia dressed quickly, her hands trembling. She needed air. Needed space to think without Leonardo's overwhelming presence making her forget all the reasons this was wrong. She opened the bedroom door carefully and peered out. The guard who was usually posted there was gone, probably pulled into whatever crisis Leonardo was managing downstairs. The hallway was empty. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But her feet were already moving, carrying her toward the back stairs, the ones the staff used. If she could just get outside for a few minutes, just clear her head. Miss Torres? Mia jumped, spinning to find Rosa at the end of the hallway carrying fresh linens. The older woman's eyes widened as she took in Mia's disheveled appearance, the direction she'd been heading. I just needed some air, Mia said quickly. I wasn't. The gardens are the other direction, child. Rosa's voice was gentle but knowing. And Mr. Costa specifically said, I know what he said. But I'm not a prisoner, am I? I can walk around the house. Rosa's expression softened with something like pity. You are and you aren't. It's complicated. Everything about this is complicated. Mia's voice cracked. Rosa, I can't think straight. Last night I told him I wanted to stay, but now I don't know if I meant it or if I'm just losing myself. Rosa set down the linens and moved closer, her hand warm on Mia's shoulder. What happened last night? Mia's cheeks burned. I can't. I'm not asking for details, child. But I can see it in your face. Something changed. Rosa studied her carefully. Do you regret it? I don't know. Maybe. No. Mia pressed her hands to her face. I don't know anything anymore except that I need to get out of this house, just for an hour, just to think. Then let me take you. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. There's a small chapel about a mile from here on Costa property. Very private, very safe. I go there sometimes when the house gets to be too much. Would that help? Mia looked at her with desperate gratitude. Yes. God, yes. But Leonardo is busy dealing with the aftermath of last night's attack. By the time he realizes you're gone, we'll be back. Rosa's smile was conspiratorial. Consider it a kindness from one woman to another. Sometimes we all need space from men, even the ones who love us. He doesn't love me. Doesn't he? Rosa's expression suggested she knew better. Come. Before I lose my nerve and remember I value my job. The chapel was exactly what Mia needed. Small, peaceful, with stained glass windows that painted the interior in jewel tones. Rosa left her there with a promise to return in an hour, and Mia sank onto a pew, finally able to breathe. She wasn't religious, hadn't been since Nana died. But there was something about the quiet, the sense of sanctuary, that made her feel less trapped. Less like she was drowning in circumstances beyond her control. I don't know what I'm doing, she whispered to the empty space. I don't know if what I feel is real or just survival. I don't know if I'm falling in love or just falling apart. The chapel offered no answers. But the silence was better than the chaos of the house, better than Leonardo's intensity and the weight of his expectations. She stayed there for 45 minutes, letting herself think without his presence clouding her judgment. And by the time Rosa appeared in the doorway, Mia had made a decision. She couldn't stay. Not like this. Not without knowing if her feelings were genuine or manufactured by trauma and fear and proximity. She needed distance. Real distance. Away from Leonardo and his world and the mark on her wrist that felt like a brand. She needed to know who she was without him. Ready? Rosa asked gently. Yes. Mia stood, her resolve hardening. But Rosa, I need your help with something else. Getting off the estate was easier than it should have been. Rosa, bless her, provided a distraction, an emergency, in the kitchen that required immediate attention from the guards at the gate. And Mia, wearing one of Rosa's coats and a scarf covering her hair, slipped out during the confusion. She made it 3 blocks before the guilt started. Leonardo would be furious, would probably tear the city apart looking for her. But she couldn't make a life-changing decision like this while trapped in his house, marked with his symbol, still feeling his touch on her skin. She needed perspective. Needed to prove to herself that she could survive without him. The bus stop was 2 blocks ahead. She had cash, Rosa had given her some for emergencies, and knew the route back to her old neighborhood. Her apartment was gone, obviously, but she had a friend, Jessica from work, who might let her crash for a few days while she figured things out. Just a few days. Just to clear my head. Then She didn't know what she'd do then. Go back? Run for real? Turn herself in to the police and hope they could protect her from the Romanos? None of the options were good. The bus was pulling up when she heard the car. Black SUV moving too fast, screeching to a stop right beside her. The door flew open and Marco emerged, his face thunderous. Miss Torres. Get in the car. No. Mia backed away. I'm not going back. You don't have a choice. The boss. I always have a choice. He said so himself. Her voice was shaking but defiant. I'm leaving, Marco. I can't, I need space to think. You can think at the house. Where it's safe. Where I'm a prisoner. No, I'm done. She turned to run, but Marco was faster, catching her arm. Let me go. I can't. You don't understand, the boss is losing his mind right now. When he found out you were gone, Marco's grip was firm but not painful. Please, Miss Torres. Just come back. Talk to him. Don't make this worse. How could it be worse? He kidnapped me. He marked me like property. He He loves you, you stupid girl. Marco's voice cracked with frustration. I've worked for Leonardo Costa for 8 years, and I have never seen him lose control like he did when he realized you were missing. He put a gun to Rosa's head, Rosa, who's been like a mother to him, because he thought she'd helped you escape. He's tearing the city apart right now, thinking the Romanos took you again, thinking you're hurt or dead or... Mia's blood ran cold. He threatened Rosa? He's not thinking straight. That's what you do to him, you make him lose the cold control that keeps him alive. Marco's eyes were pleading. Please. Come back. Talk to him. Don't make him do something he'll regret. Guilt crashed over her in waves. Rosa. God, Rosa had helped her and now she was paying the price. And Leonardo. He loves you. Did he? Could a man like that even love? Or was it just possession wearing love's mask? Before she could decide, another car pulled up. This one she recognized, Leonardo's personal vehicle. And the man who emerged from it looked like death incarnate. Leonardo's face was a mask of cold fury. His eyes, when they landed on her, held something wild and dangerous and barely controlled. He crossed the distance between them in long strides, and Marco quickly stepped aside. Get in the car. Leonardo's voice was deadly quiet. Leonardo, get the car. He wasn't yelling. Somehow that was worse. We'll talk at home. But right now, you're getting in this car before I throw you in myself. You can't. Can't I? He grabbed her arm, not rough but unyielding, and pulled her toward the vehicle. You want to test me right now, Mia? After you ran? After you made me think the Romanos had you again? After you? His voice broke slightly. After you made me think I'd lost you? Mia stared at him, seeing past the fury to the fear underneath. He'd been terrified. Genuinely bone-deep terrified. And now that fear was manifesting as rage. She let him guide her into the car without further protest. He climbed in after her, slamming the door with enough force to rattle the frame. Then he pressed the button for the privacy screen, sealing them off from the driver. The silence was deafening. I wasn't running from the Romanos, Mia said finally. I just needed space. Yes, Rosa explained that before I very nearly killed her for helping you. Leonardo's hands were clenched into fists on his thighs. Do you have any idea what the last 2 hours have been like? Finding your room empty? Discovering you'd left the estate? Thinking that I'd failed to protect you again? I wasn't in danger. I was just. You're always in danger. The words exploded out of him. Every second you're not under my protection, you're at risk. Vincent Romano wants you dead or captured, and you decided to take a fucking bus trip to clear your head. I wasn't thinking. No, you weren't. Leonardo turned to face her fully, and the raw emotion in his eyes made her breath catch. You were thinking about leaving. About running from me. From this. From what we shared last night. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You're mine, Mia. I marked you. I claimed you. And you told me you wanted to stay. Was that a lie? No. Maybe. I don't know. Mia's voice rose. Everything is happening so fast and I can't think straight around you, and I just needed to know if what I feel is real or just Stockholm Syndrome or... Stockholm Syndrome. Leonardo laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you think this is? What else could it be? You kidnapped me, Leonardo. You keep me prisoner. You've killed people in front of me. And somehow I've convinced myself that I'm falling for you? That's not normal. That's not normal? Nothing about this is normal. He grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. But it's real, Mia. What you feel, what we both feel, it's real. And if you run from it, if you let fear make your decisions, then the Romanos win. Fear wins. And you'll never know what we could have been. Tears burned in Mia's eyes. I'm scared. So am I. The admission seemed to cost him. I'm terrified, Principessa. Because you have power over me now. Power to hurt me in ways enemies never could. And I don't know how to handle that. But I know running isn't the answer. What is the answer? Trust me. Stay with me. Let me prove that what's between us is more than just captivity and fear. His thumbs brushed away her tears. Give us a real chance, Mia. Not as captor and captive, but as... As what? Leonardo's jaw clenched. As something more. Something that matters. Something... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear, as something I haven't felt since before my mother died. Something like love. Mia's heart stuttered. Leonardo. I know I have no right to love you. I know everything about this situation is wrong. But I can't change how I feel, Mia. I can't change the fact that the thought of losing you makes me want to burn the world down. His forehead pressed against hers. So don't run. Please. Don't make me lose the only good thing I've had in 10 years. She should be strong. Should stick to her decision. Should demand he let her go and never look back. But looking into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, feeling the tremor in his hands as he held her, she couldn't do it. Couldn't walk away from whatever this was between them, wrong as it might be. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I scared you. I needed to know if I was choosing this or if I was just too broken to choose anything else. And what did you decide? I don't know yet. At his devastated expression, she quickly added, but I want to find out. I want to give this a real chance. I need time, Leonardo. And I need you to give me space to figure out my own feelings without feeling like I'm suffocating. I can do that. But his hands tightened on her face, like he couldn't bear to let go. But you don't leave the estate without me. You don't put yourself at risk. And you don't make me think you're dead or captured or hurt. Agreed. Agreed. And Mia? His eyes bored into hers. If you ever try to run again, if you ever make me feel like I did this morning, I won't be this calm about it. I will lock you in my room and throw away the key before I let you put yourself in danger again. Do you understand? Do you understand? Mia swallowed hard, seeing the absolute conviction in his face. Yes, I understand. Good. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't do that to me again. Please. I can't handle thinking I've lost you. They sat like that for a long time, wrapped around each other in the back of the car as Boston traffic moved around them. And slowly Mia felt her panic subside, replaced by something else. Not quite acceptance. Not quite surrender. But maybe the beginning of genuine choice. Because the truth was, as much as she'd wanted to run, as much as she'd convinced herself she needed space, the moment she'd seen Leonardo's face, the moment she'd seen his fear and fury and desperate relief, she'd known. She didn't want to leave. Didn't want to be anywhere but in his arms. Maybe that made her weak. Maybe that made her broken. Or maybe, just maybe, it meant what she felt was real after all. They didn't speak on the drive back. But Leonardo kept one hand wrapped around hers, his thumb stroking over her wrist where his mark lay hidden beneath the bandage. A reminder. A claim. A promise. When they arrived at the estate, Rosa was waiting on the steps, looking pale but unharmed. Mia rushed to her the moment the car stopped. Rosa, I'm so sorry. Marco said. Leonardo is not as cold as he pretends to be. Rosa's smile was warm despite the fear that still lingered in her eyes. He was angry, yes. Threatened terrible things. But he didn't hurt me. He never would. He loves you, child. And love makes even the strongest men do foolish things. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I know. But now you see what you mean to him. What he'll do to keep you. Rosa touched her cheek gently. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Mia glanced back at Leonardo, who was talking to Marco in low, urgent tones. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up, and their eyes met across the distance. I don't know yet, Mia admitted. But I'm going to find out. That night, Leonardo insisted she stay in his room again. Not as a punishment, he assured her, but because he needed to know she was safe. Needed to see her, touch her, confirm she was real and alive in his. Mia should have argued. Should have demanded her own space. But the truth was she didn't want to sleep alone either. They lay together in his massive bed, not touching at first, the events of the day hanging heavy between them. Then Leonardo spoke into the darkness. My father used to lock my mother in her room when he was angry with her. For days sometimes. No food, barely any water. Just locked away until she apologized for whatever imagined slight he'd invented. His voice was rough. I swore I'd never be like him. Never control someone through fear and isolation. But today, when you were gone, all I could think was that I wanted to lock you away somewhere no one could ever take you from me. Mia rolled to face him. But you didn't. No. Because you're not my prisoner, Mia. Not really. He struggled for the words. You're my choice. And I need to be yours too, not just because you're trapped, but because you want to be. I do want to be. The admission came easier now. I'm terrified of what that means, but I do. Leonardo pulled her closer, and Mia went willingly, tucking herself against his chest. His heartbeat was steady under her ear, a rhythm she was learning to find comfort in. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. I've been feeling strange lately. Dizzy. Nauseous in the mornings. I thought it was stress, but... She felt him tense. How long? A week maybe? It's probably nothing. Or it's something. His hand splayed across her stomach, large and warm and possessive. When was your last period? Mia's mind went blank. When had it been? Before the kidnapping, certainly. Which meant 6 weeks, she whispered. Maybe 7. I lost track with everything happening. Leonardo's breathing had changed. We didn't use protection last night. I know. I wasn't thinking. Neither was I. He pulled back to look at her face, and there was something fierce in his expression. Mia, if you're pregnant. I'm probably not. It's just stress and... If you're pregnant, he continued, his voice intense, then you're never leaving. Not ever. Do you understand? A child, my child, that changes everything. Mia's heart was pounding. Leonardo, we don't know. But we need to. Tomorrow. I'll have the doctor run tests. His hand pressed more firmly against her stomach. Got a baby. My baby. Inside you. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it sent a strange warmth through her chest. You'd want that? Even now? Even with everything so complicated? Want it? Leonardo laughed, low and rough. Mia, if you're carrying my child, you'll be the most protected woman in Boston. I'll marry you. Make you my wife in every way that matters. No one will ever question your place at my side. That's not, you can't just decide. Can't I? He pulled her into a kiss that was deep and claiming and utterly devastating. You're mine, Principessa. My woman. Possibly the mother of my child. And I'm keeping you. However I have to. Mia knew she should argue. Should point out all the problems with this possessive declaration. But wrapped in his arms, his hand warm on her stomach, imagining a future she'd never let herself want before, she found she didn't want to argue. Maybe she was broken. Maybe this was all wrong. But it was hers. They were hers. And for now that was enough. We should sleep, she murmured against his chest. Tomorrow will be complicated enough. Every day with you is complicated. But his tone was fond. That's what I love about you. You love me? Leonardo was quiet for a long moment. Then, yes. God help me, but yes. Mia closed her eyes, those 3 words echoing in her head. He loved her. This dangerous, violent, possessive man loved her. And she was falling in love with him too. The wrong man. The wrong situation. The wrong everything. But somehow, impossibly, it felt right. Chapter 7, Blood Oaths. The doctor arrived at 7 in the morning, carrying a medical bag and wearing the same tired expression Mia was starting to associate with anyone who worked for Leonardo Costa. Mr. Costa said you needed some tests run, he said, setting up in the medical wing. Blood work, pregnancy test, the standard panel. Mia sat on the examination table, Leonardo standing so close their arms touched. He hadn't left her side since she'd woken up, his hand constantly finding hers, his eyes checking on her every few minutes like she might disappear if he looked away. How long until we know? Leonardo asked. Blood test will take a few hours to process in the lab. But I brought a rapid test as well, we'll know in 5 minutes if it's positive. The doctor handed Mia a cup. If you could provide a sample? The bathroom attached to the medical wing seemed impossibly small. Mia's hands shook as she took the test, as she waited for the results, as she stared at the small window that would determine the course of her entire life. 1 line meant freedom. 2 lines met. 2 lines appeared. Mia's legs gave out. She caught herself on the sink, staring at the test like it might change if she looked hard enough. But the lines stayed stubbornly visible, each one a tiny pink declaration that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Pregnant. I'm pregnant with Leonardo Costa's baby. A knock at the door. Mia? Are you okay? Leonardo's voice tight with concern. She opened the door wordlessly, holding out the test. Leonardo took it, his eyes dropping to the 2 lines. For a moment, his face went completely blank. Then something shifted, something fierce and possessive and almost violent in its intensity. Mia. Her name came out rough, reverent. We're pregnant. The word felt foreign in her mouth. I'm pregnant. Leonardo's hand went to her face, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. What she saw there made her breath catch, joy and terror and something so primal it should have frightened her. Mine, he breathed. You're carrying my child. He kissed her hard and claiming, then pulled back. Marry me. Mia blinked. What? Marry me. Now. Today. His hands framed her face. In my world, a child born out of wedlock has no protection. No rights. But a child born to my wife? That child is untouchable. An heir. protected by every law and tradition the family's honor. Leonardo, I can't just. You can. You will. His voice went hard. I won't risk my child's safety because of outdated notions about choice and freedom. You're mine, Mia. The baby is mine. And I'm making it legal before anyone can challenge it. This is insane. We barely know each other. We know enough. He pulled her against his chest, one hand splaying possessively over her still flat stomach. I know I love you. I know I'd kill anyone who tried to take you from me. I know that child inside you is the most important thing in my world now. What else do I need to know? Mia felt tears burn her eyes. You're not giving me a choice. I'm giving you the only choice that matters, safety. For you and our child. His voice softened slightly. Mia, please, let me do this. Let me protect you properly. Let me make you my wife so no one can ever question your place in my life. The doctor cleared his throat awkwardly from the doorway. I'll just let you two talk. But for what it's worth, Mr. Costa is right. In this world, marriage is protection. Especially with the Romanos still looking for Miss Torres. He left, and Mia was alone with Leonardo and the reality crashing down around her. Pregnant. With a Mafia boss's baby. After knowing him less than 2 months. I need to sit down, she whispered. Leonardo guided her back to the examination table, his hands gentle despite the steel in his voice. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking this is crazy. That I should say no. That marriage should mean something more than just protection. She looked up at him. But I'm also thinking that I don't want to raise a child in constant danger. That maybe you're right. Maybe this is the only way. It is. Leonardo crouched in front of her, taking her hands. I know this isn't romantic. I know this isn't how you imagine getting engaged. But Mia, I promise you, I will be a good husband. A good father. I will give you everything you need, everything you want. You'll never have to worry about safety or money or... What about love? The question came out small. Leonardo's expression softened. I already love you, Principessa. The wedding just makes it official. And if I said no? His jaw clenched. Then I'd convince you otherwise. But I'd prefer you say yes willingly. That's not really a choice. No. At least he was honest. But it's the best I can offer right now. Marry me, Mia. Let me give our child my name. Let me give you the protection of being Mrs. Costa. Please. Mia looked at him, at this dangerous, possessive man who was asking her to bind herself to him forever. Who'd kidnapped her, marked her, gotten her pregnant, and now wanted to marry her. Every rational part of her brain screamed to say no. To find a way out. To refuse this final surrender of her freedom. But as his hand covered hers over her stomach, as she thought about the life growing inside her, as she remembered how safe she felt in his arms, she found the word forming anyway. Yes. Leonardo's eyes closed briefly, relief washing over his face. Yes. Yes. I'll marry you. Mia's voice was steady despite her racing heart. But Leonardo, if we're doing this, if I'm agreeing to be your wife, I need something from you too. Anything. I need you to mean it. Not just the protection part, not just the possession part. I need you to actually try to build something with me. A real marriage. A real partnership. Not just you as my pretty prisoner. Leonardo stood, pulling her up with him. Done. You want a real marriage? I'll give you one. You want partnership? You'll have it. You want... He stopped, his throat working. You want love? You already have that. You've had it since you looked at me with those defiant eyes and refused to break. Mia felt tears slip down her cheeks. I'm scared. So am I. He pulled her into his arms. But we'll be scared together. And we'll figure it out. You, me, and... His hand pressed against her stomach again. And our child. Our child. The words felt surreal. But also right. In a strange, twisted, completely insane way, right? When? She asked. When do you want to do this? Today. Now. At her shocked expression, he explained, I have a priest on call. He can be here in an hour. We'll do it in the chapel Rosa took you to, small, private, just us and a few witnesses. Then tonight, we'll have a proper celebration with the family. The family? Leonardo, I don't even know these people. They're your family now too. Or they will be once you're my wife. He tilted her face up. Trust me, Mia. I know this is fast. I know this is overwhelming. But trust me to take care of everything. And despite all logic, despite every reason she should refuse, she did trust him. This dangerous, violent man who'd stolen her life and given her a new one. This possessive, demanding man who'd also shown her gentleness and protection and something that felt like love. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Let's do this before I change my mind." Leonardo's smile was fierce and victorious. He kissed her hard, then called for Marco. "Get Father Dominic. Tell him we need him at the chapel in 1 hour. And get Rosa. Tell her to prepare Miss Torres for her wedding." "Wedding?" Marco's eyes went wide. "Boss, are you?" "Yes. She's pregnant. We're getting married. Make it happen." Leonardo turned back to Mia. 1 hour, Principessa. In 1 hour, you'll be mine in every way the law recognizes. I'm already yours in every way that matters. Then this just makes it official." He pressed one more kiss to her forehead. "Go with Rosa. She'll help you get ready. And Mia? Don't even think about running. I meant what I said. I'll lock you in this room before I let you escape again. I won't run." And shockingly she meant it. "Not today. Not from this." Rosa had, impossibly, produced a wedding dress. Not a traditional white gown, there hadn't been time, but a simple ivory silk dress that fit like it had been made for her. She worked quickly, doing Mia's hair in soft waves, applying minimal makeup that somehow made her look radiant instead of terrified. "You're doing the right thing," Rosa said, fastening a delicate necklace around Mia's throat. "He'll take care of you. Take care of the baby." "Rosa, I'm marrying a man who kidnapped me. You're marrying a man who loves you. The kidnapping is just how you met." Rosa's smile was gentle. "Life in this world is complicated, child. But love, real love, that's simple. And what you two have, that's real." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've seen him with other women. Seen him conduct business marriages, alliances built on convenience. He never looked at them the way he looks at you." Rosa turned her to face the mirror. "Like you're the air he breathes. Like losing you would kill him." Mia stared at her reflection, a stranger in a beautiful dress, about to marry a man she'd known for 8 weeks. A man who'd marked her, claimed her, gotten her pregnant, and now was binding her to him forever. She should be terrified. Should be looking for escape routes. But looking at herself, at the small smile on her lips, at the glow that had nothing to do with makeup, she realized she wasn't afraid. She was ready. "It's time," Rosa said softly. "He's waiting." The chapel looked different with Leonardo in it. He stood at the altar in a black suit that must have been custom-made, his eyes tracking her every movement as she walked down the short aisle. Father Dominic stood beside him, looking unsurprised by the speed of this wedding. Probably not the first shotgun marriage he'd performed for the Costas. Marco and a few other men Mia recognized stood as witnesses, their expressions carefully neutral. But it was Leonardo's face that held her attention. The raw hunger there, the possessive satisfaction, the barely controlled emotion that made him look almost vulnerable. "You came," he said as she reached him. "Did you think I wouldn't?" "I wasn't sure." His hand found hers. "But I'm glad. So fucking glad." Father Dominic cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was brief and traditional, conducted mostly in Italian with English translations for Mia's benefit. She repeated the vows in a daze, her voice steady even as her mind reeled. "I, Mia Torres, take you, Leonardo Costa, to be my lawfully wedded husband." Leonardo's voice was rough when he spoke his vows, his eyes never leaving her face. "I, Leonardo Costa, take you, Mia Torres, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to protect you, to provide for you, to honor you all the days of my life. You are mine and I am yours before God and the families. Nothing will separate us. Not death, not distance, not any enemy who dares try." The vows were more declaration than promise, more threat than romance. But they were real. Binding. Forever. "The rings?" Father Dominic prompted. Leonardo pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal 2 platinum bands, simple, elegant, expensive. He slid the smaller one onto Mia's finger, his thumb lingering on the mark on her wrist just below it. "2 claims now," he murmured. "The mark of my family. The ring of my wife." Mia took the larger band with shaking hands and slid it onto his finger. It looked right there, she realized. Like it had always been meant to be there. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Father Dominic made the sign of the cross. "You may kiss your bride." Leonardo didn't need to be told twice. He pulled Mia against him and kissed her with an intensity that made her knees weak, with a possessiveness that left no doubt in anyone's mind who she belonged to now. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were blazing. "Mine?" he whispered against her lips. "My wife. Mother of my child. Mine in every way that matters." "Yours," Mia agreed, because what else could she say? It was true. She was his now, legally and irrevocably. And you're mine too. Don't forget that part. Leonardo's smile was fierce. Never. The celebration that night was overwhelming. Leonardo's family, the extended Costa organization, filled the house. Men in expensive suits, women dripping with jewelry, everyone offering congratulations and assessing the new Mrs. Costa with calculating eyes. Mia stayed close to Leonardo, his arm around her waist like a brand. He introduced her to everyone, underbosses, soldiers, allies from other families. Each one bowed their head to her, acknowledging her new status. "You're the queen now," Leonardo murmured in her ear. "Second only to me. Everyone in this room would die for you. Because you're mine. Because you carry my air. They don't even know me. They know enough. You're Mrs. Costa. That's all that matters." But not everyone was pleased. Mia caught whispers, saw resentful glances from some of the women. She'd been nobody, a waitress, a civilian, and now she was the boss's wife. Of course there would be jealousy. "Ignore them," Leonardo said, following her gaze. "They're not important. You are." The evening wore on, and Mia found herself exhausted from the attention, the noise, the weight of her new role. Her hand kept drifting to her stomach, to the secret growing there that only a handful of people knew about. "Are you tired?" Leonardo asked, his eyes sharp despite the alcohol he'd been drinking. "Do you need to rest?" "I'm okay. Just overwhelmed. Then we're done here." He raised his voice, addressing the room. "Thank you all for celebrating with us. But my wife is tired and I'm taking her upstairs. The party can continue without us." There were good-natured protests, but Leonardo was already leading her away, up the grand staircase to their room. The moment the door closed behind them, his entire demeanor changed from public boss to private husband. "Finally," he breathed, pulling her close. "I've wanted to get you alone all night. We were just alone this morning. That was before you were my wife." His hands went to her zipper, slowly lowering it. "Now I get to unwrap my bride properly." Mia should have been exhausted. Should have wanted nothing more than sleep. But Leonardo's touch ignited something in her, a need that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with the way he looked at her, like she was precious and necessary in his. They came together with desperate intensity, Leonardo worshipping her body with his hands and mouth, murmuring possessive words in Italian that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. And when he finally slid inside her, when their bodies joined as husband and wife for the first time, Mia felt something shift. This wasn't just sex. This was a claiming. A binding. A blood oath made flesh. "I love you," Leonardo groaned against her neck. "My wife. My everything. I love you." "I love you too," Mia gasped, the words torn from her as pleasure built. "God help me, I love you too." They fell together, crying out each other's names, clinging to each other like drowning people. And afterward, Leonardo held her close, his hand resting protectively over her stomach. "Our baby," he said softly. "Growing inside you. Part of you, part of me. A future we're building together. Are you happy about it?" Mia asked. "Really happy, not just possessive and demanding?" Leonardo's smile was wry. "Yes, I'm happy. Terrified but happy. I never thought I'd have this, a family of my own. Well, a future worth protecting. You have it now. I have you now." He kissed her temple. "And I'm never letting go. You understand that, right? This is forever. You agreed to forever when you said, 'I do.'" "I know." And she did. She'd bound herself to him permanently, given up any chance of escape or freedom. She was Mrs. Leonardo Costa now, for better or worse. "I'm scared about being a mother." "You'll be perfect. You don't know that." "I know you. I know your strength, your kindness, your defiance. Our child will be lucky to have you." His hand traced circles on her stomach. "Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. As long as they're healthy. As long as you're both safe." Mia felt tears prick her eyes. "When did this become my life?" "When my men took the wrong woman off the street. Best mistake they ever made." Leonardo tilted her face up. "Any regrets?" She should say yes. Should admit this whole thing was insane. But looking into his eyes, feeling his love and protection wrapped around her like armor, she couldn't find any regrets. "No," she whispered. "No regrets." "Good. Because we have a whole future ahead of us now. You, me, the baby. A family." His voice went rough with emotion. "I never thought I'd get to have this. A family that's actually mine. That I chose. That chose me back. We chose each other." Mia kissed him softly. In the most twisted, complicated way possible. But we chose this. We did. Leonardo pulled her closer, and they lay together in the darkness, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow made it work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more threats from the Romanos, more complications with Mia's mysterious father, more adjustments to their new life together. But tonight they were just Leonardo and Mia. Husband and wife. Building something beautiful out of something broken. And somehow, impossibly, it was enough. Chapter 8, The War. 3 weeks into marriage, Mia was starting to understand what it meant to be Mrs. Leonardo Costa. It meant guards following her everywhere. It meant never leaving the estate without Leonardo or an armed escort. It meant learning the names and faces of every person in the organization, understanding the hierarchies, the alliances, the blood debts that went back generations. It also meant morning sickness that had her hunched over the toilet while Leonardo held her hair back, murmuring soothing words in Italian. It meant her clothes growing tighter around her middle, barely noticeable yet but enough that Rosa had already started ordering maternity wear. It meant falling asleep to Leonardo's hand on her stomach, his voice soft as he talked to the baby she was carrying. "Good morning, little one. Your mother threw up 3 times already, so maybe ease up on her today, Despite everything, the violence of his world, the circumstances of their meeting, the forced nature of their marriage, Mia found herself happy. Genuinely, surprisingly happy. Until the morning Marco burst into their bedroom, his face ashen. "Boss, we have a problem." Leonardo was instantly alert, reaching for the gun he kept on the nightstand. "What kind of problem?" "Vincent Romano. He's called a meeting. All the families. Says he has proof that Mrs. Costa," Marco's eyes flicked to Mia, "belongs to him. That you stole his property." The room went very still. "Property?" Leonardo's voice was deadly quiet. "Explain." "He's claiming her father, Thomas Torres, stole something from the Romano family 25 years ago. Something worth millions. And that by blood rights, Mia Torres is obligated to return it or serve as payment for the debt." Mia's blood ran cold. "What? That doesn't make sense. My father died before I was born." "Apparently not." Marco pulled out a folder, handed it to Leonardo. "Our investigators found records. Thomas Torres didn't die. He went into witness protection after stealing from the Romanos. He's been alive this whole time." The world tilted. Mia felt Leonardo's hand on her shoulder, steadying her, but she couldn't process what Marco was saying. Her father was alive? Had been alive her whole life, while her mother told her he was dead. Leonardo was flipping through the documents, his jaw getting tighter with each page. What did he steal? Account numbers. Access codes to offshore accounts holding the Romano family's fortune. $50 million hidden before the feds could seize it. Thomas Torres was the accountant who set it up, and the only one who knew how to access it. And Vincent thinks Mia knows where it is. He knows she doesn't. But he thinks he can use her to draw Thomas out of hiding. Marco's expression was grim. "He's demanded you hand her over at the meeting. Says if you refuse, he's declaring open war on every Costa holding in the city. Let him try." Leonardo's voice was ice. "My wife isn't going anywhere. Boss, if he gets the other families on his side, if they agree she's Romano property by blood debt. I don't care if God himself demands I hand her over." Leonardo pulled Mia against his chest, his arms protective. "She's mine. My wife. Mother of my child. Anyone who tries to take her dies. End of discussion." Marco looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew better. "The meeting is in 2 hours. At the Romano estate. He's expecting you to attend. Then I'll attend. But Mia stays here, under maximum security." Leonardo turned to her. "I need you to promise me you'll stay in this room until I get back. Don't trust anyone except Rosa. Don't open the door for anyone. Understand?" "Leonardo, if this meeting is about me, I should be there." "Absolutely not. You are not setting foot anywhere near Vincent Romano." His hands framed her face. "Promise me, Mia. Promise me you'll stay here where you're safe." Looking into his eyes, seeing the fear barely contained beneath the surface, Mia nodded. "I promise." "Good." He kissed her hard, desperately, like he might never get the chance again. "I love you. You and our baby. Remember that. No matter what happens, remember I love you. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to go to this meeting, tell them all to go to hell and come home to me." Leonardo's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course I will." But as he left with Marco and a full security detail, Mia felt dread settle in her stomach like lead. 2 hours turned into 3. Then 4. Mia paced the bedroom like a caged animal, her phone silent, no word from Leonardo or anyone else. Rosa came and went, bringing food Mia couldn't eat, trying to reassure her even though the older woman's eyes betrayed her own fear. "He's done this before," Rosa said. "Gone to difficult meetings. He always comes back. But this is different. This is about me. About my father." Mia pressed her hand to her stomach, where the baby was just starting to show. "Rosa, what if Vincent is right? What if I do owe some kind of blood debt?" "You owe nothing. Your father's choices aren't your responsibility." Rosa squeezed her hand. "And even if they were, Leonardo would never let anyone take you. He'd burn the city down first." As if on cue, the lights went out. Both women froze. Emergency lights kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red, and somewhere in the distance, Mia heard shouting. "Gunfire." "Oh God," Rosa whispered. "They're here. The Romanos are here." "But how? How did they get past the security?" The answer came in the form of an explosion that shook the entire house. Mia grabbed onto Rosa as plaster rained down from the ceiling. More gunfire, closer now. And then, the bedroom door burst open. Marco stood there, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, his gun drawn. But it wasn't pointed at the door. It was pointed at them. "I'm sorry," he said, and his voice actually sounded regretful. "But they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. My family's debts, all cleared, plus $5 million. All I had to do was make sure the security cameras went dark and give them a clear path to this room." Mia's heart stopped. "Marco, no. She goes with them peacefully or they kill everyone in the house. Those were my orders." His gun hand was shaking. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Costa. But my family comes first." Rosa moved in front of Mia. "You'll have to kill me first, you traitorous bastard." "That can be arranged." A new voice, cold and amused. Vincent Romano stepped through the doorway, flanked by 4 armed men. He was older than Mia expected, late 50s maybe, with silver hair and the kind of face that had probably been handsome once but was now just cruel. His eyes locked onto Mia with disturbing intensity. "Hello, Mia. I've been looking for you for a very long time. Stay away from me." Mia backed up until she hit the wall, her hand protectively covering her stomach. Vincent's gaze dropped to her middle and his smile widened. "Pregnant, I see. How inconvenient. But I suppose we can work around that." He gestured to his men. "Take her. Kill anyone who tries to stop us." "No." Rosa lunged forward, but one of the men struck her with his gun. She crumpled. "Rosa." Mia tried to run to her, but rough hands grabbed her arms, hauling her backward. "Let me go. She needs help." "She's fine. Just unconscious." Vincent approached slowly, studying Mia like a specimen. "You look like your father, did you know that? Same eyes. Same stubborn jaw. Thomas was a good accountant. Pity he was also a thief." "I don't know anything about accounts or money or—" "I know. You're useless to me information-wise. But your father, Thomas, loves you apparently. Kept tabs on you your whole life, even though he could never contact you without blowing his cover." Vincent's hand shot out, grabbing her chin hard enough to bruise. "He'll come out of hiding for you. He'll give me what I want. And then I'll kill you both. Leonardo will find you. He'll kill you for this." Leonardo Costa is currently surrounded by 5 families who've agreed I have legitimate claim to you. He can't do anything without starting a war he can't win. Vincent's smile was vicious. "He can keep the mark and the ring and the marriage license. But you're coming with me." They dragged her through the house, past bodies of guards who tried to stop them. Mia saw at least 3 she recognized, good men who'd been kind to her, now dead because of Vincent's obsession with her father's betrayal. Outside, more carnage. The gates had been blown open and Romano soldiers were everywhere, exchanging fire with the few Costa men who remained. They threw her into a van and Vincent climbed in after her. "Take us to the warehouse," he ordered the driver. "And if anyone follows, kill them." As the van pulled away, Mia caught one last glimpse of the Costa estate, her home for the past 2 months, now burning and broken. And somewhere in the city, Leonardo was at a meeting, probably just finding out about the attack, probably losing his mind. She pressed her hand to her stomach, to the baby growing there, and made a silent promise. "I will survive this. For you. For Leonardo. I will survive." The warehouse was exactly as grim as she'd imagined: concrete floors, exposed pipes, the smell of rust and decay. They tied her to a chair in the center of a large empty room, and Vincent dismissed everyone except 2 guards. "Now we wait," he said, pulling up a chair across from her. I've already sent word to your father. Told him if he wants to see you alive, he'll bring me the account numbers within 24 hours. He won't come. He doesn't even know me. He knows you well enough. Knows your birthday, your favorite color, the name of your grandmother who raised you. He's been watching from a distance your whole life. Vincent leaned forward. He'll come. And when he does, I'll get what's mine. What he stole from me 25 years ago. And then you'll kill us both. Yes. No hesitation. You're a loose end. A complication. Costa's wife or not, you die tonight. The baby too. Can't have any Costa heirs running around with Romano blood debt attached. Mia's hands clenched. She wouldn't cry. Wouldn't give him the satisfaction. But terror was a living thing inside her chest, clawing at her throat, making it hard to breathe. Leonardo. Where are you? Please find me. Please. As if summoned by her thoughts, she heard it, distant at first, then getting closer. Gunfire. Explosions. Shouting in Italian. And underneath it all, a roar of pure fury that she recognized instantly. Leonardo. Vincent's head snapped toward the sound. That's impossible. He can't be. How did he? The warehouse doors exploded inward. Leonardo Costa stood silhouetted against the flames behind him, covered in blood and holding a gun in each hand. His face was a mask of absolute rage, and his eyes, God, his eyes were the eyes of a man who'd already decided everyone in this room was dead. Get away from my wife. The words echoed through the space with such fury that even Vincent flinched. His guards raised their weapons, but they were too slow. Leonardo moved like death incarnate, putting bullets through both men's skulls before they could fire. They dropped like puppets with cut strings. Vincent grabbed Mia, yanking her up and pressing a knife to her throat. Stay back. Stay back or I'll kill her. Leonardo froze, his chest heaving, his eyes locked on the knife at Mia's throat. Behind him, more men poured into the warehouse. Marco's men, Costa soldiers, all armed and ready. Let her go, Vincent. Leonardo's voice was eerily calm now, which was somehow worse than the rage. Let her go and I'll make your death quick. You're not in a position to negotiate. I have your precious wife. Your unborn child. If you want them to live, I'll what? Let you escape? Let you live. Leonardo's laugh was hollow. Vincent, you made a mistake tonight. You touched what's mine. You put your hands on my wife. You threatened my child. There is no scenario where you leave this warehouse alive. Then she dies with me. The knife pressed harder and Mia felt a trickle of blood run down her neck. Leonardo's eyes went absolutely black. Marco. Boss. Marco stepped forward, looking pale and terrified. You betrayed me. You let them into my house. You put my wife in danger. Leonardo's voice was soft. Deadly. But you're going to make it right. You're going to take that shot. Marco's hands were shaking as he raised his rifle, aiming at Vincent. But the angle was bad. Vincent was using Mia as a human shield and any shot risked hitting her. I can't, boss, I can't make this shot without. Then I will. A new voice, older and tired. A man stepped out of the shadows at the back of the warehouse. He was thin, graying, with eyes exactly like Mia's. Let my daughter go, Vincent. You want the codes? I'll give them to you. Just let her go. Dad. Mia's voice broke on the word. Thomas Torres looked at her with such profound sadness that Mia's heart cracked. I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry for all of this. For leaving you. For putting you in danger. His voice caught. For not being the father you deserved. How touching. Vincent's grip tightened. Give me the codes, Thomas. No. Or I start cutting pieces off your daughter. The codes are in a safety deposit box. Bank of America, downtown branch. Box number 2847. The key is, Thomas pulled something from his pocket, held it up. Right here. Throw it to me. Let her go first. Not a chance. The standoff stretched, tension building to a breaking point. Mia could feel Vincent's pulse hammering against her back, could smell his sweat and fear and rage. Leonardo stood like a statue, his guns trained on Vincent, waiting for the smallest opening. Then everything happened at once. Thomas threw the key, not to Vincent but to the side, forcing Vincent to turn slightly to track its path. In that split second, his grip loosened fractionally, and Mia did the only thing she could think of. She dropped her full weight, becoming a dead weight in Vincent's arms. He stumbled, the knife moving away from her throat for just a moment. And that was all Leonardo needed. 3 shots. Impossibly fast. Impossibly precise. All 3 hit Vincent, shoulder, chest, throat, and he released Mia as he fell. Leonardo was moving before Vincent hit the ground, scooping Mia up and carrying her away from the body. His hands were everywhere, checking her for injuries, his eyes wild with fear. "Are you hurt? Did he cut you?" "The baby is the baby. I'm okay. We're okay." Mia wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. "You found me? You came." "Of course I came." His voice was ragged. "Did you think anything could stop me? Did you think?" He pulled back to look at her face and there were tears in his eyes. "I thought I'd lost you. When I got the call about the attack, when I realized they'd taken you, I've never been that afraid in my life. I'm here. I'm safe. We're safe." Leonardo crushed her against his chest, his whole body shaking. Around them, his men were securing the warehouse, dealing with Vincent's body, but he didn't seem to notice or care. All his attention was on Mia. "I love you," he whispered. "God, I love you so much. Don't ever let anyone take you from me again." "I won't. I promise." A throat cleared behind them. Thomas Torres stood there looking uncertain and heartbroken. "Mia, I don't expect you to forgive me, or even want to talk to me. But I needed to see that you were okay. Needed to," his voice broke. "Needed to save you even if it cost me everything." Mia pulled away from Leonardo slightly, studying the man who was supposedly her father. He looked nothing like the monster she'd imagined over the years. Just a tired, sad man who'd made terrible choices and lived with the consequences. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why steal from them? Why fake your death? Why let Mom and me think you were gone?" "Because I was stupid and greedy and thought I could outsmart Vincent Romano." Thomas's hands clenched. "I set up those offshore accounts as his accountant. Saw how much money he was hiding from the government. And I convinced myself that taking it was justified. That he was a criminal who deserved it. But all I did was put a target on your back. On your mother's back. I had to disappear to keep you safe. Some safety. I ended up kidnapped and married to a mafia boss anyway." Thomas's eyes went to Leonardo, assessing. Did he hurt you? Force you?" "No." Mia's hand found Leonardo's. "It's complicated. But I chose this. Chose him. And I chose her," Leonardo added, his arm tightening around Mia's waist. "Your daughter is my wife. Mother of my child. Under my protection permanently. You understand what that means?" Thomas nodded slowly. "It means she's more yours than she ever was mine." He looked at Mia. Would you be willing to let me know you occasionally? Not as a father, I don't deserve that. But just, to know you're alive and safe." Mia wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him it was too late, that he'd made his choice 25 years ago. But looking at his face, seeing the genuine remorse there, she couldn't do it. "Maybe. Eventually. After?" She gestured vaguely at the chaos around them. "After we figure out what happens now." "The accounts?" Leonardo said suddenly. "The 50 million. What are you going to do with it?" Thomas pulled out the key again. "Keep it. Use it. I don't want it anymore. It's brought me nothing but misery. If it can buy peace between you and what's left of the Romano family, then at least some good came from my mistakes." Leonardo studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll discuss terms. But right now my wife needs medical attention and rest." Marco approached nervously, clearly expecting punishment. "Boss. You betrayed me. Let enemies into my home. Nearly got my wife killed." Leonardo's voice was cold. "You have two choices. 1, I kill you now quickly. 2, you spend the rest of your life earning back my trust, starting with never leaving my wife's side again. If anything happens to her, you die slowly. Understood?" Marco's face was ashen, but he nodded. "I'll protect her with my life, boss. I swear it. I'll never betray you again. You better hope you don't get the chance." Leonardo turned away from him dismissively. "Everyone, we're leaving. Clean this up. Leave Vincent's body where the Romano family can find it. And spread the word, anyone who comes after my wife or my child answers to me personally." He carried Mia to his car, refusing to let her walk despite her protests. The drive back to the estate was silent, Leonardo's hand never leaving hers, his eyes constantly checking on her like he couldn't quite believe she was real. The house was a mess when they arrived. Bullet holes, broken windows, blood on the marble floors. But the guards who'd survived were already beginning cleanup, and Rosa appeared with medical supplies, tears streaming down her face. "Thank God," she sobbed, pulling Mia into a careful hug. "Thank God you're both safe." Leonardo took Mia straight to the medical wing, where the doctor examined her thoroughly. Minor cuts from the rope that had bound her. A shallow knife wound on her throat that would heal without scarring. Bruises on her arms from rough handling. But the baby was fine. Strong heartbeat, no signs of distress. Their child had survived this nightmare. You should rest, the doctor said. Both of you. This has been extremely traumatic. But Leonardo couldn't rest. He paced the medical wing like a caged animal, his hands clenching and unclenching, his jaw tight with barely suppressed violence. Leonardo. Mia caught his hand as he passed. Come here. Please. He sank into the chair beside the exam table, and Mia saw how close he was to breaking. This strong, dangerous man who killed without hesitation was trembling. I almost lost you, he said hoarsely. If I'd been 5 minutes later, if your father hadn't shown up, if Vincent had, he couldn't finish. But you weren't. And he did. And Vincent didn't. Mia cupped his face. We're okay. All three of us. We survived. Because you were smart. Because you dropped when you needed to. Because you, his voice broke. You're so brave, Principessa. So fucking brave. And I can't lose you. I can't function without you. You're everything to me. You and our baby. Everything. Then hold on to us. Mia guided his hand to her stomach. Hold on to us and don't let go. Leonardo rested his forehead against her middle, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Mia ran her fingers through his hair, letting him break, letting him be vulnerable in a way she knew he never was with anyone else. I love you, she whispered. My dangerous, possessive, protective husband. I love you. I love you too. He looked up at her, his eyes red. And I'm never letting anyone threaten you again. I'm putting out word tonight. Anyone who even looks at you wrong dies. Anyone who mentions your father's name in connection with debts dies. You're untouchable now, Mia. Untouchable. That seems excessive. I don't care. He stood, pulling her into his arms. You're mine. My wife. Mother of my child. The only good thing in my life. And I will protect you with every breath in my body. That's not negotiable. Mia leaned into his embrace, feeling safe despite everything they'd just been through. Because Leonardo Costa meant what he said. He would protect her. Would burn the world down if anyone tried to take her again. It should have been terrifying. The obsessiveness. The possessiveness. The absolute conviction that she belonged to him. But somehow, wrapped in his arms, marked with his symbol and wearing his ring and carrying his child, it just felt like love. Twisted, dangerous, completely insane love. But love nonetheless. And that was enough. Epilogue, wrong girl, right destiny. 3 years later. The villa overlooked the Mediterranean, all white stone and blue shutters and gardens that seemed to bloom in defiance of the Sicilian heat. It was a far cry from the Boston estate where their story had begun. Smaller, more private, a sanctuary rather than a fortress. Though Leonardo still kept armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Some habits died hard. Mia stood on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Behind her, through the open doors, she could hear Leonardo's voice. Soft, playful, speaking Italian to someone who responded with delighted giggles. And then the dragon said, You cannot have the princess, for she belongs to the king. Pause. What do you think happened next, Piccola? The king fights the dragon. Their daughter's voice, high and confident. And he wins because he's the strongest. Exactly right. Because no one takes what belongs to the king. Not dragons, not knights, not anyone. Mia smiled, shaking her head. Even bedtime stories in the Costa household involved possessive declarations and violence. But their daughter, Sofia, named for Leonardo's mother, ate it up, convinced her papa was the hero of every tale. She wasn't entirely wrong. Mia? Leonardo appeared in the doorway, Sofia perched on his hip. At 3 years old, she was the perfect combination of both parents. Leonardo's dark hair and gray eyes, Mia's stubborn jaw and infectious smile. Come say goodnight to our little monster. I'm not a monster, Papa. I'm a princess. Sofia declared, her tone suggesting this was an argument they'd had many times before. You're both, Mia said, crossing to them and pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. My beautiful little monster princess. Time for bed. But I'm not tired. This was also a nightly argument. One Sofia never won. Tell that to your eyes. They're already closing. Leonardo carried her toward the stairs. Come on, Piccola. If you sleep now, tomorrow we can go to the beach again. And build sandcastles? The biggest sandcastle you've ever seen. He glanced back at Mia. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Don't move from that spot. Mia watched them go, her dangerous husband and their fierce daughter, and felt her heart swell with something she'd never thought she'd have. Peace. Contentment. A family that was messy and complicated but undeniably theirs. The past 3 years hadn't been easy. There had been challenges. Other families testing Leonardo's control, old enemies emerging from shadows, the constant balancing act of raising a child in their world. But they'd faced it all together and somehow, impossibly, they'd made it work. She moved to the edge of the terrace, her hand drifting to her stomach. 4 months along with their second child, a boy this time according to the ultrasound. Leonardo had cried when they found out, his hand pressed to her growing belly as he murmured promises to their unborn son. Another one to protect. Another one to love. Another reason to build something better than what I inherited. And he was doing exactly that. Slowly, carefully, Leonardo had been shifting the family business away from the worst of its criminal enterprises. Using the Romano accounts, all 50 million of them, to legitimize operations, invest in legal ventures, create a legacy that Sofia and her brother could inherit without shame. It would take years, maybe decades. But Leonardo was patient when it came to his family's future. Footsteps behind her. Leonardo's arms wrapped around her waist, his hands settling on her stomach with familiar possessiveness. She's asleep. Made it through half the dragon story before she crashed. You tell the same story every night. It's her favorite. He pressed a kiss to her neck. Besides, I like reminding her that her mother was the princess who was stolen but chose to stay. That's not quite how it happened. Close enough. His hands splayed wider across her belly. How's our little one today? Causing trouble? Always. Just like his father. Mia leaned back against Leonardo's chest. He's been kicking all afternoon. Good. Strong. A fighter. Leonardo turned her in his arms so he could look at her face. The late afternoon sun caught in his dark hair, painting him in gold, and Mia was struck, as she often was, by how beautiful he was. How lucky she was, despite everything. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly. The way this started? Taking the wrong woman? Leonardo was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. I regret that you were afraid. I regret that I couldn't give you a choice at the beginning. I regret every moment you spent as my prisoner instead of my partner. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. But regret taking you? Regret that my men made that mistake? Never. Not for a single second. Even though it started a war? Even if. His hands framed her face. You were always meant to be mine, Mia. Fate just took a twisted path getting you here. That's one way to describe kidnapping and forced marriage. I prefer fate with aggressive intervention. His smile was teasing, but his eyes were serious. You're happy here? In Sicily? Away from Boston? I'm happy anywhere you are. And she meant it. The location didn't matter. What mattered was the life they'd built together. Though I do miss Rosa sometimes. She's coming next month. I already arranged it. Of course he had. Leonardo still anticipated her needs before she voiced them, still watched her with that protective intensity that had frightened her once and now just made her feel cherished. And your father, Thomas, he's asked if he can visit too. Meet Sofia. If you're comfortable with that. Mia's relationship with Thomas was still complicated. They spoke once a month, carefully rebuilding a connection that had never really existed. He testified against what remained of the Romano organization, helped Leonardo absorb their territories, and then quietly retired to a small town in Oregon. He was trying. That had to count for something. Maybe, she said. Let's see how Sofia handles Rosa first. She gets overwhelmed with too many visitors. She gets that from me. Leonardo pulled her closer, one hand sliding to the small of her back. I've been thinking about something. Dangerous words. Maybe. His smile was wry. But I want to renew our vows. Properly this time. Not rushed, not forced. A real wedding where you choose me because you want to, not because I've backed you into a corner. Mia's breath caught. Leonardo. I know we're already married. I know legally nothing changes. But I need you to have that choice. To stand in front of God and our family and choose me. Freely. Without fear or coercion or pregnancy hormones influencing your decision. You think I only married you because I was pregnant? I think you married me because I didn't give you much choice. His jaw clenched. And I've lived with that guilt for 3 years. So let me do this. Let me give you the wedding you deserved. Let me hear you say, I do, when you actually mean it. Mia stared at him, at this powerful man who still worried that she'd only stayed because she had no other option. Who still carried guilt for the way their story began. Who loved her so much it sometimes felt like drowning. Leonardo Costa. She put her hands on his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath her palms. I chose you the night I came to your bedroom after the first attack. I chose you when I told you I wanted to stay. I chose you when I said yes to your forced proposal. And I've chosen you every single day since then. Mia. I'm not finished. She rose on her toes, bringing her face closer to his. Yes, the way we started was wrong. Yes, you took my freedom. Yes, you marked me and claimed me and gave me no choice about any of it. She felt him flinch but continued, but you also protected me. Loved me. Gave me a family and a home and a life worth living. So if you want a second wedding, if you need to hear me choose you again, I will. Gladly. Because I choose you every day, Leonardo. I always have. Even when I shouldn't have. Even when it was crazy. I choose you. Leonardo's eyes were suspiciously bright. He pulled her into a kiss that was tender and desperate and full of 3 years of love and gratitude and possessive devotion. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathing hard. Next month, he said roughly. Small ceremony. Just family and the people who matter. And Mia? I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. I already don't regret it. She smiled against his lips. Well, maybe sometimes. Like when you're being overprotective and won't let me leave the house without 3 guards. Our daughter is too recognizable now. People know she's mine. They might. I know. I'm teasing. She kissed him softly. Your paranoia keeps us safe. I've made peace with it. It's not paranoia if people have actually tried to kidnap you multiple times. Fair point. Mia nestled into his embrace, looking out over the Mediterranean. Tell me something. If you could go back to that night your men grabbed me, would you do anything differently? Leonardo was quiet for a long moment. I'd tell them to be gentler. To explain instead of terrify. I'd come to you myself, talk to you, try to make you understand the danger you were in. His arms tightened around her. But I'd still take you. Still make you mine. Still do whatever it took to keep you. Because a world where you're not mine, that's not a world worth living in. Possessive as ever. You married me knowing that. But his tone was gentle, almost amused. You can't complain now. I'm not complaining. Just observing. She turned in his arms again. I love you. Even with all your obsessive, overprotective, slightly unhinged tendencies. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. My wrong girl who became my right woman. My everything. They stood like that as the sun set fully, as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Inside, Sophia slept peacefully, dreaming of dragons and princesses. In Mia's womb their son grew strong and safe. And here on the terrace, 2 people who'd found each other in the worst possible way held tight to the best possible outcome. Papa. Mama. Sophia's voice drifted down from upstairs. I can't sleep without you. Leonardo sighed. She plays us like violins. She learned from the best. Mia took his hand. Come on. Let's go reassure our manipulative princess that we haven't abandoned her. They climbed the stairs together, hand in hand, to the bedroom where their daughter waited. Sophia sat up in bed, her gray eyes wide and hopeful, dark hair wild around her face. I had a bad dream, she said, which was her standard excuse. Did you? Leonardo sat on the edge of her bed, pulling her into his lap. Tell Papa about it. There was a dragon. And he took Mama away. And you couldn't find her. Sophia's lower lip trembled. It was scary. Hey. Mia sat on Sophia's other side. Papa will always find me. Always. You know why? Why? Because we're connected. By love and magic and something stronger than any dragon. She tapped Sophia's chest. And nothing is strong enough to keep us apart. Not dragons, not oceans, not anything. Promise. Promise. Leonardo kissed the top of Sophia's head. I'll always protect you and Mama. And soon your little brother too. That's what papas do. And what do mamas do? Mamas keep everyone safe with love instead of swords, Mia said. And they tell better bedtime stories. Hey. Leonardo's mock offense made Sophia giggle. My stories are excellent. They're all the same, Papa. King takes princess, keeps her forever, the end. Because it's the best story. He tickled Sophia's side gently. Worked out pretty well for me. Did you steal Mama like in the story? Leonardo and Mia exchanged a look. One that carried 3 years of history, of complicated truth, of a love story that had no business working but somehow did. Something like that, Leonardo said finally. But your Mama chose to stay. That's the important part. Because she loves you? Because she loves me. His hand found Mia's over their daughter's head. And because sometimes, Piccola, the wrong thing leads to the right outcome. Sometimes fate makes mistakes that turn into miracles. Sofia yawned, already drifting back to sleep between them. I don't understand. You will someday. Mia stroked her daughter's hair. When you're older and you find someone who feels like home even when they shouldn't. When you choose love even when it's complicated. That's when you'll understand. Okay. Sofia's eyes fluttered closed. Papa? Yes, Piccola? Tell the story again. The one about the king and the princess. Leonardo smiled, pulling both his girls closer. Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled his kingdom with an iron fist. He was powerful and feared and very, very lonely. Until one night, his men made a mistake. They brought him the wrong woman. But she was the right woman, Sofia murmured sleepily. But she was the right woman, Leonardo agreed, his eyes meeting Mia's. She was brave and beautiful and stubborn. And even though she didn't want to stay at first, even though she fought him every step of the way, slowly she began to see that the king wasn't a monster. Just a man who'd been waiting his whole life for her. And she fell in love with him? And she fell in love with him. And they had a beautiful daughter. That's me. That's you. And soon a son. And they lived in a villa by the sea, where dragons couldn't reach them and love kept them safe. The end. Sofia was asleep before he finished, her breath evening out between them. Carefully, Leonardo and Mia extracted themselves, tucking her in and leaving the door cracked so they could hear if she called for them. In their own bedroom down the hall, they prepared for bed in comfortable silence. Mia watched Leonardo in the mirror as she brushed her hair. This man who'd stolen her, marked her, claimed her, and somehow given her everything she'd never known she wanted. Do you think she'll understand? She asked quietly. When she's older? About how we really met. Leonardo came up behind her, his hands settling on her shoulders. I think she'll understand that love is complicated. That people can hurt each other and still choose each other. That sometimes the wrong beginning leads to the right ending. That's very philosophical for a mafia boss. Former mafia boss. He kissed her neck. I'm going legitimate, remember? By the time our children are grown, the Costa name will mean business empires, not criminal enterprises. And if they want to know about the before times? Then we'll tell them the truth. His eyes met hers in the mirror. That I was a bad man who did bad things. But their mother made me want to be better. Made me believe I could build something worth having. Made me, his voice roughened. Made me human again. Mia turned in his arms, her hands finding his face. You were always human, Leonardo. Just hurt. Just trapped in a world that demanded you be a monster. And you freed me from that. Even though I was the one who kidnapped you. He laughed softly. The irony isn't lost on me. Good. She pulled him down for a kiss. I'd hate to think you missed it. They fell into bed together, Leonardo's hand automatically going to her stomach as it had every night since she'd told him about the pregnancy. Feeling their son move under his palm, strong and alive in theirs. Luca, Leonardo murmured. If he's like me, we're in trouble. If he's like you, he'll be protective and loyal and love with his whole heart. Mia covered his hand with hers. We'll teach him to be the good parts of you without the violence. The strength without the cruelty. The passion without the possession. I'm still pretty possessive. I've noticed. But her tone was fond. Lucky for you, I don't mind being possessed. As long as it goes both ways. It does. He pulled her closer, her back to his chest, their hands intertwined over their son. You possess me completely, Mia Costa. You have since the moment you refused to break. Since the moment you challenged me instead of cowering. Since the moment you chose to stay. I love you. I love you too. My wrong girl. My right woman. My everything. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other in the promise of their growing family. Outside, guards patrolled. Inside, Sofia dreamed of dragons and princesses. And in this villa by the Mediterranean, two people who should never have worked somehow created something beautiful out of something broken. Years later, when Sofia asked about how they met, Mia would tell her a version of the truth. Your father made a mistake that changed both our lives. He took something that wasn't his. But I chose to stay. Chose him. Chose this life. And I've never regretted it. And Leonardo would add, with that possessive gleam in his eye that still made Mia's heart race. Sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be, even if the path there is dark. Your mother was always meant to be mine. Fate just took a detour getting her here. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a perfect love story. It was messy and complicated and born from violence and fear. But it was theirs. The wrong girl stolen by the wrong man in all the wrong ways, creating exactly the right life. And that, as Leonardo had said 1,000 times over the years, was all that mattered. The end.